Today is 7:07. We're going to begin the meeting of June 27. Can we please call to order and do roll call?
Mr. Calvo, not present. Ms. Casa Munoz, Ms. Garcia Robles,
Present.
Ms. Perez,
Present.
Mr. Rodriguez, Mr. Tunidor, Mr. Zogby.
Present.
For the record, Councilman Calvo is present. Madam President, you have a full council.
Thank you. Can we please stand for the invocation?
Lord, we pray for your guidance and direction and benefit of those who live and work in the city of Hialeah. Amen.
Amen. Can we please have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilman Tundido? Can we have the meeting guidelines read?
The following guidelines have been established by the city council. All lobbyists must register with the city clerk. As a courtesy to others, please refrain from using cellular telephone or other similar electronic devices in the council chamber. A maximum of 3 speakers in favor and 3 speakers in opposition will be allowed to address the council on any one item. Each speaker's comments will be limited to 3 minutes. No signs or placards in support of or in opposition to an item or speaker shall be permitted within the council chamber. Any person, whether participating via the web platform, telephonic conferencing, or physical presence at City Hall, interested in making comments or posing questions on matters of public concern or on any item on the agenda may do so during the meeting. Members of the public may address the city council on any item pertaining to city business during the comments and questions portion of the meeting. A member of the public is limited to 1 appearance before the city council, and the speaker's comments will be limited to 3 minutes. The public can view public meetings on the city's YouTube page. Members of the public may hear the meeting live through telephonic conferencing using any telephone or cellular phone service. A smart device or computer are not necessary to participate in the meeting if you join by phone. All persons participating via the web platform will be muted during the meeting until called upon to be heard. Participation through Zoom requires a computer or smart mobile device with a microphone and web camera. The participant may elect to participate in the meeting using audio only or appear through both audio and video. The video function of all participants appearing through video will be turned off until called upon to be heard.
Thank you. We're moving on now to our presentations. Seeing that there is none, do we have any comments and questions? Anyone online or in council chambers? All right, seeing that there is none, can we please move on to the announcements and corrections to the agenda?
The following items have been added to today's agenda: board appointment item 9B and consent items AA and BB. Items PZ4 and PZ11 are postponed until August 8th, 2023.
Thank you. All right. Let's move on to board appointments, please. 9A.
Proposed resolution reappointing Diego Perez as a member of the Planning and Zoning Board for a 2-year term beginning on June 29th, 2023 and ending on June 28th, 2025.
Wonderful. Do we have a motion? We have a motion by Councilman Rodriguez and a second by Councilwoman Casals Munoz. Can we call the roll?
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Casa Munoz,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robles,
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Mr. Tunidor,
Yes.
Mr. Zogby.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Diego. Thank you.
Thank you for your hard work on our P and Z board. We appreciate you. Thank you, sir. Moving on.
Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
How many years have you been on?
He forgot.
He knows. Since 95.
Wow.
That's when I was on with him.
Look at that. Institutional knowledge right
Yep.
there. Thank you. Moving on to item 9B, please.
Proposed resolution appointing Mike Hidalgo to the Youth Advisory Committee for the remainder of a 2-year term ending on February 23rd, 2024.
Thank you. Councilman?
Motion?
I have a motion by Councilman Rodriguez and a second by Councilwoman Casaus Munoz. Can we please call the roll?
Ms. Casal Munoz,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes,
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mr. Tonidor,
Yes.
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo. Motion carries. The item is approved.
I will remind some of the council members that your members that are part of the Youth Advisory Board, many have graduated and are moving on to Vanderbilt University, UF, NYC. So we need to start thinking about maybe appointing other. So thank you, Councilman Rodriguez, for taking the lead on that. Moving on to our consent agenda. Does anyone want to pull any items?
Through the chair.
Yes, sir, you're recognized.
Okay, item E,
Item E,
E as an echo. Item K. Item N,
E, K, N,
T,
T,
W, and Y,
W, and Y.
and double B.
Mm. C, W, Y, and what was the last one that you said?
Double B.
Double B. Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
Motion?
I have a motion by Councilman Rodriguez. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Vice President Garcia Robes. Please call the roll.
Ms. Garcia Robes.
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Tonidor.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez, Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Casal Munoz.
Yes.
Motion carries. The consent agenda has passed except items E, K, N, T, W, Y, and double B.
Thank you. Moving on to item E, please.
Report of Scrivener's error on June 2023, the city council approved City of Hialeah Resolution number 2023-060 with an error in the header of the resolution. The resolution was approved with the incorrect expenditure amount of $105,000. The resolution is being amended to reflect the correct expenditure amount of $160,000 as follows. Resolution authorizing the mayor and the city clerk as attesting witness on behalf of the city to enter into a professional services agreement in the amount of $160,000, a copy of which is attached hereto and made a part hereof as Exhibit 1 with Answer Advisory LLC, a foreign limited liability company for the development of a non-ad valorem special assessment funding alternative for the city's fire services.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you. Not sure, should I direct my question to you, I guess? Or do we have the interim? Have an interim director or law department, it says here. I just wanted to ask, it seemed like quite a big typo, $55,000. This is the fire fee that is being explored. So I just wanted to understand, somebody can give me an explanation what occurred here.
I didn't write the resolution. I'm not sure why the error was the $55,000 error. Lorena, do you know?
Lorena Bravo, City Attorney. It's good to see you all. The engagement agreement was attached. It was accurate. Nothing about the terms of engagement has changed. It was Exhibit 1 to the resolution on the last agenda. The sum of the expenditure is what was in error, and it was reflected inaccurately in the body of the resolution, not in the engagement. You are paying a fee for the consultant who is going to conduct the data or look at the data and analyze the data and propose a rate. And you are going to then also hire a law firm to prepare the ordinance and see this council through the adoption of an assessment, if that is the will of the council, and the inclusion of the assessment as part of the tax roll in the upcoming fiscal year.
Just a quick follow-up. I've never really asked this, but I've always been curious, because it is a Scrivener's error, is it essentially assumed that this is just a typo, but the actual approval still stands, or would there be the ability to, I guess, turn that approval backwards because the error existed.
Yeah, I was wondering why the Scrivener's error was put on consent agenda. I don't believe that this item requires a vote. It is a report to the council. When the intent of the council was as intended in the proposed resolution, and I believe that the exhibit which would have governed the actions in the resolution because it was attached as an exhibit and the proposal has not changed, then it's a report to council that in fact it was an unintended error in grammar or in a number, as was the case here.
Understood. So should we even be voting on it at this time?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the clerk's procedures has been in the past
We've
in
always
reporting
reported the
the
error
report to the council.
and it's been ratified by the council.
Okay. Well, I mean, look, I voted against the original, so obviously the typo I have to vote against as well. So, for that reason. But if somebody wants to motion, happy to move the conversation.
Yes, ma'am, you're recognized. I have a motion by Councilman Rodriguez, but go ahead, you're recognized.
I have a question. Lorena, you said that one of the things that the consultant's going to do is do the ordinance. We already have an ordinance for the fire fee. Are we going to cancel that ordinance and apply a new one?
To the extent that it needs to be updated to conform with any current provisions in the law, that was an ordinance that was enacted in 2008. I'm certain there have been changes to the
Correct.
Special Assessment Act, or to the extent that it requires degree in the amendment in the opinion of the
So it would be an
council,
amendment. Okay,
then it would be an amendment or it may be a total overhaul. I
Okay.
think you need to, hear counsel on that.
okay. Thank you. Second.
I have a second by Councilwoman Gonzalez Munoz. Can we call the roll?
Ms. Perez?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mr. Tumidor?
Yes.
Mr. Zogby?
Yes.
Mr. Calvo?
No.
Ms. Casam Munoz?
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robles?
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Thank you. Moving on to item K.
Request permission to award City of
Through the chair,
Hialeah.
I'm sorry. Can we actually take item N before K? I'm just curious if there's any relation.
Item N before K.
Yeah, if possible.
Go ahead, call it into the record. Item N.
Item N, proposed resolution adopting the city's one-year action plan for federal funds for fiscal year 2023 to 2024 attaches Exhibit A, which includes the administrative budgets for the Community Development Block Grant Program in the amount of $2,505,439, the Home Investment Partnerships Program in the amount of $1,681,285, the Emergency Solutions Grant in the amount of $232,957, authorizing the execution of all applicable documents related to the appropriation and allocation of these program funds, authorizing submission of the one-year action plan to HUD, authorizing amendment of the consolidated plan to reflect the activities within the action plan, and further authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to execute intra-departmental agreements for subrecipients of ESG and CDBG funds.
Councilman, is your question reflected to the law department or to grants?
No, to grants. I just wanted to get a high level overview, what are we allocating this money for? And you can give me a further explanation.
Certainly, Maria Ruiz, Grants Office. The process of the annual plan is actually an offshoot of the city's consolidated plan, which was actually drafted several years ago. The annual plan only allocates the monies that were then subsequently awarded from the federal government to the city under that consolidated plan. So, which is awarded to the city via formula grant. What we have done is identified all of the areas that are inconsistent with the city's consolidated plan and activities that we have found service gaps within the city's own general fund, or activities that we have found have not been properly serviced, such as the victims of domestic violence, where we have severe service gaps in order to meet that need. So in truth, it emanates from the consolidated plan that was drafted back in 2020, I believe.
Okay, so I'm just going through the little line items. So it's saying something like domestic violence, there'll be $75,000 available for that.
Mhm.
Homeless shelter beds, 65,000. Then there's crime awareness. I see also AEDS. What's that?
Those our ADs are for atrial defibrillation. So
Defibrillation.
somebody who might have a heart attack, then we can respond.
And hope, what is that hoping?
Hope is it's fair housing, which we're required by law to do fair housing services as a participating jurisdiction.
Understood. And then public facilities infrastructure, I guess that's maintenance of buildings. What is that?
So the public facilities and infrastructure, the activity that you see immediately beneath it is the drainage improvements for East 13th Street from 6th to 10th Avenue.
Okay. And then what is program administration? What is?
Program administration is our staff to be able to monitor compliance to the federal guidelines.
Understood. Okay. So just to be clear, none of this money would have anything to do with the master plan of the city.
No.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That was my question. Motion.
Thank you. I have a motion by
Second.
Councilman Calvo and I have a second by Councilwoman Gonzalez Munoz. Can we call the roll, please?
Mr. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mr. Tumidor,
Yes.
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Casal Munoz.
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes, Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Item K, please.
Request permission to award City of Hialeah invitation to bid number 2022-23 8500-00-022. City of Hialeah 2050 Master Plan to Pluserbia Design, sole source bidder. And further request permission to issue a purchase order to the vendor for the development of a 25-year vision plan in a total expense amount not to exceed $1,212,458, of which $350,000 has already been included in the fiscal year 2022 through 2023 budget, and the remaining $862,458 to be allocated in the fiscal year 2023 through 2024 and fiscal year 2024 through 2025 budgets. The amount of $431,229 each fiscal year. The funding for this expenditure will be drawn against the general fund, professional services account number 001-4400-515-310.
Thank you. Councilman?
Thank you. See, it's planning, zoning, and storage here. I hadn't seen, Ms. Storch, how are you? I hadn't seen the breakdowns of the amounts until this item came up. And I saw in item 2.3, there's something that we're spending $235,000 and we're calling equitable engagement. I didn't know the city of Hialeah was so keen on equity, but I was just curious what that meant.
This is only to approve the bidder. We haven't gone into the contract yet, so they wrote what they thought, what they presented, and then the law department will have to draft a contract with the scope of work that they sent more detail than what was in that initial proposal,
Okay.
and there we will go into the detail of each of the items.
So at this time, we wouldn't know exactly, like, for example, how much money would be allocated between the different entities, between Pluserbia, between Corradino. I think there's a third one, right? What's the third one?
That will be something that they will have to solve
Mhm.
because we are hiring them as a team. So then they will know who does that work with which percentage. That's an internal thing that they will solve on their own. We are hiring the team.
Okay, we're hiring the team and this is just their guesstimate of how much this is going to cost, but the contract terms haven't been established yet. Is that
Exactly.
what I'm
Yeah,
understanding?
yes,
Okay. And just to be clear, it's $1.2 million that they're estimating this would cost.
well, it's estimating the contract will include a lump sum, so it
Right.
won't be this and then per hour.
Right.
We usually try to do that, a lump sum.
Okay, so could it be more than 1.2
No,
million?
no.
So it'll be
It could be less, but no more.
understood. Okay. All right. That's all for me.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
I have a motion by Councilwoman Gonzalez Munoz.
Second.
I have a second by Councilman Zogby. Can we call the roll?
Mr. Tumidor,
Yes.
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo,
No.
Ms. Casal Munoz,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes,
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Sorry, yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Thank you. Moving on to item T, please.
Proposed resolution approving a service agreement between the city of Hialeah and Mi Vision LLC to provide the city with consulting and professional services involving the city's educational, therapeutic, arts, and recreational services and programming available to children and administered by the Education and Community Services and Parks and Recreations Department for the city of Hialeah's education and for a term commencing on July 1st, 2023 and ending on July 31st, 2024 in an amount not to exceed $30,000 and authorizing the mayor, his designee, and the city clerk as attesting witness on behalf of the city to execute the service agreement attached hereto in substantial form and made a part hereof as Exhibit 1 and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Councilman.
Yep, thank you. So I see it's the Office of the Mayor. I wanted just to know what My Vision LLC was and, you know, what the scope of the project was for the $30,000.
Do you have anyone from the
Mayor's
mayor's
office.
office?
I didn't see.
Hello,
Good evening.
welcome to all of you and good evening. Ismari Montreal, 501 Palm Avenue. So we're gonna have to get back to you on this because this is an agreement with Parks and Rec. So not sure where the mayor's office was there.
Okay.
Do we have
So
anyone
motion.
from
Parks and Rec?
Parks? We have Willie or Mike or anybody here? He's online? Jesus, is he able to be unmuted?
Good evening, everybody. This is Willie Sanchez. I'm sorry I was unable to unmute.
Hey, Willie, how are you?
Good, sir, good. And I have to defer, this may be under Educational and Community Service Department services. So I'm not aware of the Univision, My Vision LLC. I'll have to get back to you on this item.
Okay.
So maybe it's
Anyone
even
here know?
Sharon, maybe it's Sharon Tisdale, maybe she knows. Would you like to table the item until we have?
Yeah, let's just table it because
Second.
we don't know.
So I
what
have
it
a
is.
motion to table by Councilman Calvo and I have a second by Councilwoman Casals Munoz. Can we call the roll?
Table until the next meeting, sir. Is that your motion?
Yeah, it's fine.
Our next meeting would be
August 8th.
August 8th.
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Casal Munoz,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes.
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez, Mr. Tonidor.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is tabled until August 8th, 2023.
Thank you. Item W, please.
Proposed resolution authorizing the mayor and the city clerk as a testing witness on behalf of the city to enter into a third amendment to the on-demand transportation services agreement between the city of Hialeah, Florida and Be Free LLC, doing business as Freebie, a copy of which is attached to and made a part hereof as Exhibit 1, to provide and operate flexible door-to-door on-demand transportation services within designated service areas to the residents and visitors of the city of Hialeah.
Good evening, Mr. Espinosa.
Good evening.
Councilman?
Good evening. Am I understanding this correctly? I was looking through and I think we're just, what it is essentially we're raising the monthly from 41,000 to 43. Is that correct? Or is there
It's
some
a
other?
3% increase, yes, for the next year's contract.
Okay. Is there any other difference?
Justa Espinosa, 900 East 56th Street, for the record.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay, so just aside from that 3% increase, is there any other change? I mean, because we only got the third amendment, so I don't
Correct.
know.
It's no changes. That's the only price difference. That's why it's a third amendment to that resolution only.
Okay,
We go by year contract with the freebie on demand.
right.
As you already know, that we're
Yeah.
making changes to get the service better.
Yeah.
So this is one of the steps that we need to do to continue the service and to get better going.
Yeah, let me tell you, so I actually, in the interim time we had our last meeting, I met with the gentleman from Freebie. And by the way, very professional, you know, it seems like, at least on the face of it, it's a good company. It's just, we were kind of spitballing ideas back and forth, and I think one of the concerns he shared with me was, you know, they never really wanted to service the whole city. I think he was telling me that they wanted to service the two zones, join them together so we can have cross access, but I think where the breakdown has occurred is that when we've expanded to the full boundaries of the city, that's where they're getting those crazy wait times. And actually, what had occurred, you know, that time we spoke, where I had requested Freebie and was unable to get the ride, the app kicked me out at, you know, the 35-minute mark.
That's already been fixed.
Right.
Okay.
So apparently the app is the one that kicks you out automatically at that
Correct.
cutoff, right? Which
Correct.
would, you know, in a sense, skew the data because it's, you know, it's saying that the average wait time is about 30 minutes, but that's when it kicks everybody out. I won't go there, but I actually tried to get a freebie
Okay.
in the interim period in the last week, and I have the screenshot, and it again kicked me out at around the 30-minute mark.
Well, they're working on that hour wait now that we want to put into it, go from
Right.
30 minutes to an hour.
Right,
So I'm pretty sure their department is still working on that.
Right. Here's where I'm at.
2 weeks is something kind of fast for that development.
Yeah.
Give them a little bit of time. I already sat with the president, Jason, and emailed you with that.
Yep,
We already made a decision to change it to an hour. The reason why we went citywide, because other cities are doing it. And the city of our size should be able to do on-demand citywide. Why limit ourselves to just 2 zones?
right.
Now, with the information that we're getting now, yes, we need to add more vehicles. There's grants already that I applied for to be able to add more vehicles to the
Right.
service and bring down the wait time.
Yeah, he was telling me, so Hialeah is 25 square miles. We have the 5 vehicles.
Correct,
Coral Gables, in 1 square mile, they do 5 vehicles.
correct.
But I think the more interesting city, if we're gonna look at,
Mhm.
is gonna be Aventura, because Aventura has 10 vehicles.
Correct,
But what they actually did is they actually took money away from buses
correct,
to fund Freebie,
correct.
and the city ended up putting express bus services. And so I invited him, and hopefully, you know, now we have our break, but I invited him to come back around August
Mhm.
and give a presentation on, you know, what Aventura has done, how they've been able to use Freebie to augment their express bus service.
Now,
So-
did you know that when they did that, it affected their service because they just went from route services to on-demand and
Right.
affected the community.
Right,
Our route service has been in the city of Hialeah for 20 years.
okay,
Okay, and this is something that's been known for all our residents that count on it. I have riderships that need to get on the bus to go to work. Now, other cities keep both systems, the fixed route and the on-demand. Like I've stressed before, the on-demand service is to get our population to the main avenues so we can use our transportation to move them around the city. And persons that cannot move go from one destination to another destination and from B back to home.
right. Listen, I don't think the solution is one or the other, but I
Right.
do think everything has to work hand in hand. And I think what Freebie is right now, my understanding of it, it's primarily for people over the age of 60, 65 years old is the average rider.
Okay,
And it's essentially kind of like a senior transportation service that we're running.
well, we have right there from on the records from Freebie, on April, we had males, females, flag down riderships. Okay. From those numbers alone, we're looking at the age groups of 30 is the average rider, 30, and senior citizens. On the hot zones of the city, which is on the map with the monthly report that he gives me, it's more centralized to the west side of Hialeah, trying to move to the east side. So
Yeah,
we have a lot of pickups from there,
I saw the number one hotspot is actually West End Mall.
right?
Um,
Where you know that senior citizens used to do their exercise. So
Right.
we're also providing a service where they can do their exercise in Westland Mall. And
what
it's a place for
I,
us.
what we kind of nerded out about is we blew into the map. And we looked at, for example, our metro stations, right? So our 3 Metro Rail, our 2 Tri-Rail. And we wanted to see, you know, is anybody using Freebie to use existing rail services that we have in our city? And the answer was very, very few people. It was actually some of the weaker zones.
Okay,
on the
but
map.
also in a fixed route, I pick up 47 passengers every morning in the Metro Rail station
Hmm,
and take them all the way to the new Home Depot warehouses in the annex area. That's daily,
okay.
Monday through Friday.
And that's Hialeah
Transit.
Trent, the only station that we service?
Well, that's the one, that's the centralized, that's the one we
Okay.
picked.
All right,
Because the Okeechobee one is very logistically hard for buses to get there and back out. And we're gonna look into that anyways in the future.
okay.
But the main hub, if you're on the metro anyways, you're one exit away.
How about the Tri-Rail transfer station with all the new development in there? Is there plans to service that with buses?
That will be out of the on-demand to get you out of on-demand to get you out of that zone. But yes, we are looking to different avenues and different routes for the fix.
Okay, listen, I mean, I think it's super interesting. I'd like to have a deeper talk about it, hopefully in August.
Okay.
Maybe we can look at other cities, see what they're doing.
Other cities are, like I said, they're doing both services because it works.
Right.
Yes, we need to add more vehicles, the funding, I'm working on the grants to get the funding for freebie to expand it even further.
Mhm.
Should we be at a higher number? Yes, but as we're seeing right now, the numbers are climbing.
Yeah,
So we cannot, Aventura put 10, yes, but the ridership was down.
right.
Now the riderships are climbing up. Our ridership has been climbing every single month.
If, in the meantime, as we prepare for August, would you be able to provide me, all the data you have on ridership, buses? Obviously I have the reports from Freebie, they'll be sending me
I
those.
sent you the one last time with buses, didn't you
Yeah.
get that one from the email?
Well, I'll need updated records.
Okay, no
And then
problem.
I'll also need, if you can, I was curious about the advertising. So I know Freebie, they keep the advertising.
Yes, we get a discount because they advertise and we get a discounted
Right.
price.
So I guess we wouldn't know how much they're making, because that
No.
would be their private
That will
information.
be their private information.
But do we know how much we're making on our buses? We'll have
Our
that
our
data.
buses, roughly about $89,000.
Okay, so.
And
I'd
now
like
with the
to
new
see that.
infotainment system, we're looking at a great increase. Once we get it up and going, the infotainment system should give us a nice revenue.
So I'd like to see all that. And then, it's just hard for me to vote yes on the 3%. Just being as a user, I've tried to use the service twice and I haven't been able to make it work. I mean, hopefully I'm not that bad at the tech.
Well, other people are using it. I just
Right.
see the numbers. So
Right.
if you are gonna vote, please vote yes
Okay.
for all the residents in the city of Hialeah.
No guarantee.
Don't give me a no just because of one, but for the residents of Hialeah, vote yes, please.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate
So
it.
you could fix the issue, that's why.
So I have a motion on the item.
Motion.
I have a motion by Councilwoman Gonzalez Munoz. I have a second by Jesus, Councilman Tundidor.
Mr. Calvo?
No.
Ms. Casa Munoz?
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes?
Yes.
Ms. Perez?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez? Mr. Tumidor?
Yes.
Mr. Zogby?
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Thank you. Let's move on to item Y.
Request permission to ratify the issuance of purchase order number 2023-2250 issued to Jormac Equipment and Consulting Incorporated for full hydrant replacement, maintenance, and repair services for hydrants that are found out of compliance under the city's ISO study in a total expense amount not to exceed $125,000. The approval of this item requires the waiving of competitive bidding since it is advantageous to the city due to timing and that there are not many vendors available. The funding for this expenditure will be drawn against the Water and Sewer Division Fund, Capital Outlay Infrastructure Account Number 450-9510-533-630.
Good evening, Councilman.
Thank you. Director, how are you? Listen, here's where I'm at. So, I want you to walk me through this. So in November, I think this was before you were here, if that's correct, we approved it was about a $500,000, fire hydrant study. We were gonna check all these hydrants and we were gonna paint the ones that were good and then we would replace the ones that weren't. And this was all gonna be fine and dandy. And I remember, I have to pull the recording, but my recollection was the topic was, well, we're gonna finish this by the end of the year. I believe that was in November. But if I looked at the backup, I remember seeing it said that the agreement said we would finish it in 60 days. In April, we had this similar item that said $125,000 expenditure to fix the hydrants that needed replacement, great. I'm pretty sure I voted yes on that one. And My question just was, hey, can I get a list of the hydrants that have been checked? And I want to know specifically which ones are being replaced, because that's the money that we're approving, the 125,000. And specifically, I said, look, the hydrant actually by my house wasn't painted. I was just curious if that's the one that's scheduled to be replaced or what have you. So I requested those records in April. I received them about, what was it, 2 weeks ago? Don't quote me on that, but about 2 weeks ago. And then the problem was that those records only showed about 1,000 or so hydrants that have been checked out of the 3,500 that we supposedly have. And it didn't indicate to me which ones were going to be replaced as far as that item that covered the 125,000. But more importantly, those records that I received 2 weeks ago were only updated as of April, presumably when I requested them. And so my pushback was, I need updated records. I can't get something in June with April dates. And so I'd like to see, June updated records. And I'd like to see these records on an ongoing basis. Specifically today, we're asked to approve another 125,000. But if you look at the backups, there's no information as to what hydrants or, what's being replaced, how much of this work has been done. And so that's where I'm at. And hopefully you can walk me through that. But I've essentially requested this updated June sort of report. I haven't received anything. It's been about a week. And so, I'm being asked to vote on this item. So that's where I'm at.
Sure. Thank you, Councilman. Kevin Linsky, Public Works Department. I believe that the items that were voted on last November, I was not here, were really for the establishment of the baseline of how the system was working. So we had one company in the field that was doing the field look and an engineer in the background who was compiling all the information. That report, which I believe in the report that you were given, there's a very nice little summary grid,
Right.
tells you to date how many hydrants we have, how many have been checked,
Right.
how many are broken, and I think there was an exact listing of every single hydrant. There's one report since it's been slightly updated just to remind the council of the numbers. Initially, the department believed that there were about 3,000 hydrants. There seems to be about 10% more in the field when they're there. To date, 2,700 have been inspected of what's believed to be 3,300.
Okay.
So we're at 75% mark, because there are 401 is the last report I have, and that's a couple weeks old, that were declared to be out of service. We're kind of shifting that crew that was doing the inspections mostly to doing repairs now. There's only so much labor in the field. So of the 400 that have been declared out of service, 175 have been repaired.
Okay.
And most of those repairs have taken place in-house. We brought you an item maybe a month ago that was for 125,000 to get one firm to begin repairs. This is the second firm. The second firm, as opposed to fixing broken hydrants, they're doing the full replacements. So a full replacement is a pretty substantial piece of work. They have to go in, dig out the whole area, cut the pipes, and then put in a new hydrant. Of those, again, we've inspected 75% of the system. There's just under 30 that have to be fully replaced. And again, we probably still have another 225 to fix.
Hmm.
And if we continue at that pace, we're going to identify yet another 100 broken hydrants, kind of
Okay.
using the same ratio.
Right.
So I will have the pleasure of coming back to this council again with an item that probably tries to finish those off. The repairs that are taking place, we've only gotten our first invoice just this week on the repairs. And I think they were averaging just over 1,000 on the repairs per hydrant. Full replacements are $4,500. We had to spend a lot of time trying to find the two firms who would do this. So I can do the basic math, but all in all, by the time we're done with this program, there's going to be 500,000 plus of new hydrants, replaced hydrants, or repaired hydrants.
Okay. So let me take that piecemeal. So point number one, why is it that, first of all, this wasn't completed in the 60 days that was originally promised?
So
Because
what was
we're 6 months in or 7 months in, and you're telling me there's 2,700, 75%. We're still missing a quarter.
So I can't tell you what happened before I got here in the middle of March. There was a late start. I don't know exactly when they started. The
Yeah,
inspection,
the report actually cites some dates, I believe, in December. So it looks like they started right around the approval.
might have been around that time. I can't speak to before I got here how fast they were going. The linchpin is really the fixing and not the inspecting. Inspecting goes pretty quickly.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's what I was curious about because, you know, it seemed like the inspection would be a quick process, but it doesn't seem like it's going that way and we're still inspecting. And one thing I noticed that was curious to me at least was, you know, this was like a $500,000 project, but we only had 2 people inspecting, right? There's at least only 2 names that appear on that Excel sheet as the person that sort of checked that hydrant. Funny enough, I'm driving through Hialeah, I run across one of the inspections and sure enough, yeah, it was just one guy that was, you know, checking the hydrant or whatever, you know, he was doing. And then the other day I was driving up 16th and 37th and I actually saw that they had removed the hydrant and the hydrant was no longer there. It was just the pipe where the hydrant used to be. And they had a cone, like one of these traffic cones, and they shoved it into the pipe, I guess, like to let people know, you know, there's a dripping hazard, but there was no one to be seen around the hydrant. So I'm just curious, you know, we're using these outside companies and, you know, you're stating that obviously it was difficult to even find them in the first place. But, you know, is our money being spent wisely here in contracting these companies? Because they're taking way, way, way longer and they're putting what it seems like at least only 2 people on this job. You know, maybe the repairs are being done by other folks. So that's where I'm at there.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. When they were doing the inspections up until the council passed an item about last month, there was 1 crew of 2 people and now it's 2 crews of 2 people.
Okay.
And rather than having them do inspections, they have a lot of equipment. They have to, when they do the inspections, they do a flow test.
Right.
It takes a bit of time. So now there's 4 people from that company doing almost no inspections. They're just kind of catching up on the backlog. And there are 6 people from the second company who are doing the replacements in 2 crews.
Okay.
And it's,
And I've seen a couple hydrants now. I've seen a couple of them where they've been putting these big circles that say like out of service. Are you aware of that? Or which one, how do you get an out of service tag without, because there's some that are not painted and they're just there. There are some that are painted. There are some that are not painted with out of service tags, right? Like, I'm just trying to understand.
yeah, I don't think the paint has much to do with it. I think they're supposed to mark it with a
Mhm.
circle when it's out of service. And then we have a report, which is the report that you have. If you list the 1,000+
Yeah, the
hydrants, it
the
just
report
marked
I
them in
have-
red.
The report I have, I'm sorry to interrupt you, is only shows about 1,000 or so hydrants that have been checked. So you're telling me it's 2,700, that's drastically more. So I need to see that report. You know, I've asked for it, at least a week has passed. I haven't received it. So I need to see that report so I can analyze whether or not, you know, we should proceed, right? I mean, I think they go hand in hand. And I think I need to know specifically as far as replacements go, like how that process is going, because it seems like the inspection's taking quite a while. I just want to ensure the replacements aren't taking as long. I think you're kind of stating to me that 175 have been replaced, but there seems to be, what is it, 300 or 400 that have been sort of identified as needing replacement?
No, so 175 out of 400 have been repaired. Those are the
Okay.
ones that are
So
technically out
those
of
are just
service.
repairs.
Those are repairs, but they can be substantial.
Okay.
Of all the inspections to date, there have been just about 30 that have indicated these hydrants just need to be
Full
completely
replacement.
replaced, full replacements.
Right. And out of those 30, how many have been fully replaced?
This contract that you approved today, Jormac, we just
Right.
signed it maybe 10 days ago. So they were doing 2 to 3 a day, 5 working days. They might have done 10. They had a slow start. So
Let me ask you this. So this company that's doing the full replacements, do we have the list of certifications that they have in order to do this kind of work? 'Cause
There's
it's-
0 certifications required. What happens, the important part of it is that when people come back and do the inspection, that the hydrant passes the inspection, but you don't
Okay.
go to special training to do this job.
Okay. How about because I know from speaking of Vidal for a long time, that we have a lot of asbestos lined pipes in the city. And potentially some of these hydrants may be fed by these pipes. Right? Is there any mitigation going on for that process?
I'm unaware of asbestos line pipes other than we go through all the water testing that is required by the federal government, which is testing across 120 chemicals, and we pass. But I couldn't tell you if some of the pipes had lead in them or had asbestos in them.
Yeah, no, I think they definitely do. I think we should do some due diligence on that because potentially, I mean, if we're cutting open these pipes and stuff, I think we need to make sure we're doing our due diligence. So maybe that would be, I guess, a little bit of homework. Sorry for the tone there, but I'd like to get those records right before proceeding. I think it's, you know, as much as I want this work to be done quickly, I want to make sure we're giving the work to the right company and that they're really taking this seriously, because I think we all need to take this seriously. The fact that probably some of these hydrants have been a very long time out of service is pretty concerning. Yep.
I think though that this item, we have to approve it because isn't there a deadline for them to finish this in order for our fire department to get our Class A certification?
So there is an ISO inspection period, and if the fire
Chief,
director would like to speak to it.
are we coming up on that deadline with this?
I think there's two different issues. The first one is yes, the ISO deadline's coming up. That means it's a month from now that we'll approve it and so on. Number two, it's the issue of safety. The longer it takes to approve this, the longer it takes to fix those hydrants and putting the citizens' lives at risk. I mean, I think priority besides the ISO obviously is to make sure that when we respond to a call that we're gonna have a proper water to put out the fire. And like I said, there's another month and a half, so who knows how long after that.
So we need the certification to go through by what?
We're
August,
looking
September?
at August, maybe, we're maybe a little further than that to have everything completed.
Okay,
As far as that's the ISO in itself. But I think the bigger issue is, it's a safety issue. You know, we have to make sure that everything's working. And I think the director actually went to look for another company because I urged them, hey, this needs to be done quickly. You know, we go to a fire and we don't have the proper, tools, we can't do our job and we can't help people.
okay.
Director, can I chime in here? Linsky, sorry,
Oh,
call you chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Director, will we be done by August by this deadline? Will we have everything checked, everything replaced, everything that needs to be fixed? Will we be 100% and say, hey, look, we're good to go?
No. So the checking, that's not gonna take too long. The replacement, we're gonna run into August. So if it's not September, I would say that we'll still have some that are not completed. I believe I've not been through this process before with in the city that during that time period, I don't know if they come back and give you a period of correction. Meaning you do your reports and they come back another time and then you have one more opportunity, but that's up to you, Fire Chief.
the ISO is based on different standards. I think we spoke of it before. Water's just part of it. So even depending on how much they have at the end, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not going to get to the minimum of 90 points between that, the fire department, communications and everything else. If for some godforsaken reason they miss it by a point or two, they don't fail you. It's basically they're telling you this is the issue you have and you need to correct it. And you correct it within that, they give you a year.
Okay.
It wouldn't take a year to finish correcting whatever issues we have with the hydrants.
We hope.
Well,
Yeah.
yes.
Listen, look, I'm fine voting to approve it. Sorry, back to Director Linsky. I'm fine voting to approve it, but I mean, I think I need the records for sure. And then subsequent to that, I mean, when we reconvene in August, and I think you mentioned that you might have another final item on this. I mean, I think we need to be, right, we might not be at 100%, but we definitely need to be way better than we are now. It seems like this is taking a lot longer than at least what was told to us back in November. I know that's not entirely, when you weren't even here, but certainly now, it has to get done. So that, I'm fine approving it today, but we have to kind of do this a little bit more
So do I have a
expediently.
motion?
approved.
I have a motion by Councilman Tudor and I have a second by Councilwoman Gonzalez Munoz. Let's please call roll.
Ms. Casal Munoz.
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes.
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Mr. Tumidor.
Yes.
Mr. Zogby.
Yes.
Mr. Calvo.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Thank you. Item BB.
Request permission to increase purchase order number 2023-656 issued to Brian Miller Olive, PA for legal services rendered by the firm, mostly involving the city's ongoing negotiations with the International Association of Firefighters by an additional amount of $25,000 for a new total cumulative expense amount not to exceed $50,000. The funding for this expenditure will be drawn against the general fund, professional services, account number 001-8500-519-310.
Okay. Councilman?
Thank you. Yeah, just wanted to get a better understanding from the law department, I guess it would be, where are we at in these negotiations? My understanding is that there was an impasse. Just wanted to get an idea what to expect.
I think you can expect a meeting scheduled for tomorrow morning. The
Okay.
parties continue to negotiate.
Okay,
I submitted all the invoices for services that have been incurred in these negotiations since October. And we anticipate that we may not need the additional amount being requested, but we would like to have the additional funding just in case there is the need to go to an impasse.
is there a hard deadline for this?
No, sir.
Okay. Understood.
Do I have a motion?
Motion if the councilman is done. Second.
Councilman?
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
I have a motion by Councilman Zogby and I have a second by Councilman Tumidor. Can we please call the roll?
Ms. Garcia Robes?
Yes.
Ms. Perez?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mr. Tumidor?
Yes.
Mr. Zogby?
Yes.
Mr. Calvo?
Yes.
Ms. Casal Munoz? Motion carries. The item is approved.
Thank you. Administrative items, item 11A, please.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance accepting the dedication of a portion of West 60th Street and West 24th Avenue to the city of Hialeah for right-of-way purposes from El Mercado Plaza LLC, a Florida limited liability company pursuant to right-of-way deed attached hereto and made a part hereof as Exhibit 1, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
I have a motion by Councilwoman Casal.
Second.
And I have this is a second reading, I'm sorry. Open for discussion. Anyone in council chambers or online that would like to discuss this item? All right, I have a motion by Councilwoman Casal Munoz and I have a
Second.
second by Councilman Zogby. Can we call the roll?
Mr. Calvo?
Yes.
Ms. Casal Munoz?
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes?
Yes.
Ms. Perez?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez? Mr. Tumidor?
Yes.
Mr. Zogby?
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Item 11B.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance accepting a non-exclusive access easement as legally described and depicted in the access easement agreement attached as Exhibit 1 to allow the city to install and maintain a catch basin and drain field at 3190 Palm Avenue, Hialeah, Florida, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. I have, this item is on second reading and public hearing. Do we have anyone in council chambers or online that would like to speak on the item? Motion to approve. Seeing there is none, I have a motion by Councilwoman Casal Munoz. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Councilman Zogby. Can we call the roll?
Ms. Casal Munoz? Ms. Garcia Robes?
Yes.
Ms. Perez?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez? Mr. Tumidor?
Yes.
Mr. Zogby?
Yes.
Mr. Calvo?
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Thank you. Moving on to unfinished business. All right, moving on to new business.
Through the chair.
Yes, sir.
So my business is the 911 center. Obviously, I think the mayor left us a nice packet. I have my own that I wanted to kind of pass around if the clerk's office can help me distribute these to my colleagues. Keep a copy. Thank you. Yeah, I think I only printed 7. That's why. Yeah, you can have my copy. That's fine.
Go ahead, Councilman.
Okay, so listen, the reason that we're here today and I'm bringing this topic up is essentially what I'm asking for is an investigation of our city's 911 operations, and I'd like the support of the council, my colleagues to get this done in a quick, efficient manner. I point to you to 5 pieces of evidence that bring me to the conclusion that I think we have enough information at least to begin an investigation and see where it takes us. The first piece of evidence is the one that I just handed to you. If you turn over to the 3rd page of the packet, and I'll remind you, this is the Colina report by former Chief of Miami Police Officer George Colina. This was the report that the mayor commissioned, the council approved $30,000 to study the Hialeah's Police Department, and the focus was getting a new chief on board. And as part of the scope of their report, they actually went in and did a brief look at the 911 center. And if you turn to the 3rd page of the report, which is page 44 at the bottom, you'll note the actual first sentence by the Colina Group states that the 911 center is woefully, quoting, they're woefully understaffed. It goes on to provide a series of explanations for that and a series of recommendations, but the final conclusion of the report states that the unit is grossly, this is page 45 at the bottom, the unit is grossly neglected and needs immediate attention. An investment now will only save money in the long run. And well, I'll leave you to read this later on at your leisure. That was point evidence number 1. That was March of 2022. The second piece of evidence, and when we were talking about approving the ASME contract, this was in March of this year. I pressed the HR department, are we, paying these folks enough? Are the retention bonuses, what's the hiring process looking like? And so, we came back, I think it was a couple weeks later, and there was an approval for an additional higher retention bonus, an additional increase in salary, which, although not the craziest amount of money, it was definitely an improvement. But on March 26th, before the council, we had a 911 operator attend our meeting, and he was joined by 2 of his colleagues in the audience. And as part of his comments to the council, and I'll quote him, he stated, I'm the canary in the coal mine, if you remember. And he said, if drastic changes aren't done, we're going to have a real problem. We're working 16-hour days in some points. Some of those are without a break. I mean, we're totally understaffed. That was his comments to the council. And if I remember correctly, I think Councilwoman Perez, you mentioned on that day that you'd like to see some data, some reports on what's going on with the 911 department. I think we heard from Commander Yanez, and the mayor, I think, also chimed in, and he said, absolutely, we're going to make these reports available by all means. I think Commander Yanez even said that as well. Lo and behold, we're now in June. There is no data just yet from the city of Hialeah. I think it'd be great to look at some of that, but some data did come from Miami-Dade County, and so Miami-Dade County goes ahead and they log our calls as well. And as part of that, they're stating, and I think the mayor graciously included those reports, that I think 2021 was the worst year, at least. It was 14.64% calls as marked abandoned. 2022 was better at 5.6, but then when we get to 2023, we're halfway through the year, and it's, about 7%. Who knows what the rest of the year is going to look like. I myself toured the 911 center. I believe, Ms. Perez, you also said that you were interested. I'm not sure if you ended up touring it, but I toured it. I walked the facility, spoke to the employees, spoke to the supervisors, and I saw with my own eyes, there was quite a lot of empty chairs, but in all good spirit, I think the resounding theme was we need more people. And I think nobody can really argue with that. And the fifth kind of point of evidence, and this was brought forth in the recent article in the Herald, says, 3 residents coming forward and speaking up and saying that, hey, look, in their particular occasion, they called 911 and no one answered. And, not to beat on the dead horse, but one of them was from a lady that, her husband had fallen from the roof, and apparently, she had to take the husband to the hospital herself. Another one was a mother, her autistic son was having a medical episode. She wasn't able to get in touch with anyone. Actually, when I reviewed the city's budget, as I'm sure many of you have done already with the mayor's office, one of the points that they highlighted was that they wanted to, kind of spend some money in our new budget for the upcoming year on upgrading the 911 tower in the annex area for concerns that, we don't have the right equipment there currently. And so all these pieces of evidence, right? I think there's an interesting saying, the frog's in the pot until the water starts boiling, and then the frog jumps. And so that's where we are today. All these pieces of evidences have combined to the point where I'm calling and I'm asking you all to support me on this, which is we need to know what's going on. Bottom line. I don't think that is a controversial statement to say that we need to know what the facts are. Once we have those facts, hey, look, if nothing's going on, look, Colina was wrong, he just started writing crazy things. If that's really what's happening here, then great. We can all go to sleep and say, hey, look, the residents, you guys are good. 911 is working great. If, however, by some degree of, the universe coming together, if all these kind of pieces of evidence join up in a way that states, hey, look, there is a problem, and this is the way to address it, I think it's our duty and it's our responsibility to ensure that we take those steps in a quick fashion and not do it like government usually does, of taking forever. And although I think, raising the salaries and doing the retention bonuses, I think all those things are fantastic. Hell, I was the guy that actually pushed for that. If those things are great, but that's going to do nothing to solve the issues today. I mean, yeah, we'll get applications, we'll do the background checks, we'll hire who we hire. They'll have to go through the course. You'll hear it from Commander Yanis himself, as I did when I toured the facility. Most of the applicants that go through the process don't become 911 operators. The course is too hard. They don't pass the exam. They burn out. They don't like the job itself. So by the time you actually do get that fully fledged operator, 6 months, a year pass by, and then guess what? Many of them leave because now they're certified and they can go to Doral or another municipality and they're going to get paid way more. And we don't retain them. So, we can throw the $5,000 bone and tell you, that's only if you stay 2-3 years, whatever it is. But bottom line, I don't think we're doing enough. And I think we need to know what's going on so that we can make the correct, informed decisions. I think that's what transparency is all about. I think that's a common theme that we all share. And so that's where I'm at. And I'd like to hear your comments.
Yes, ma'am, you're recognized.
I have a question actually for Councilman John. You were a police officer. You've been through 911.
Can you speak into your mic, please?
I am sorry.
Thank you.
I'm used to them telling me to turn off the mic. Thank you. So can you explain like what happens? What are the abandoned phone calls that we're hearing? And I'm curious to hear it from a professional that was there and worked it. And the other question that I'm going to ask is to Councilman Calvo. We keep hearing that there's issues going on, and every time that we're hearing these issues, and I saw the report to Colina for the first time. I had never seen it before during the process when we were looking for a chief. I didn't review any of the reports. I didn't see them. I thought they did a great job when they hired George as the chief, and Colina is a personal friend for many, many years. But all these issues that we're having, I think, comes down to a personnel and to hire more 911 is what it seems that that all the answers or the other answers to the questions is hire more employees. City of Hialeah has had issues in the city, in the police department, as well as the fire department, as well as in every department of retaining employees. So I think generally, not just, dispatch, but generally we would have to figure out what it is that we are doing incorrectly, that we are training, hiring, giving bonuses, speaking to them, and people leave anyways. And then you have the hardcore that we beat up constantly, and they don't leave no matter what, because they love the city of Hialeah, and they love where they work and how they work. And I met with a few of them last Thursday, the employees, and they loved working in the city of Hialeah. And I asked them if there's anything that you would change in the city of Hialeah, and the only thing that they had said, and they told me after, obviously they weren't saying it out loud, was the pension system. And I go back to a conversation I had with a cousin of mine that's a city attorney in another city, and he said, the only reason you work for government is because you have benefits that you will have throughout your career. And if you want to make a lot of money, you go to private sector, and he's absolutely right about that. So if you could answer the question, because I think that everything is going to come down to how do we retain these employees? And I don't think that's an answer that I think that we've asked that question often to consultants, and we never get an answer that has worked. So if you don't mind.
So if I may just clarify your question, for Councilman Zogby, we want to ask him,
What
what is an
does
abandoned phone
abandoned
call mean?
call
since you
mean
worked at
in
dispatch?
911?
Okay,
You could-
specifically, thank you for the question. Specifically, for the question of abandoned calls, it is an industry term which is unfortunately very ominous, because it gives the impression that a call was made to the 911 center and it was abandoned, and it just disappears into the ether. And nobody knows what happened to that person making the 911 call. It couldn't be farther from the truth. It couldn't be farther. A bunch of calls fall under that category for a broad spectrum of reasons. The person is calling the police because there's an accident, so are 20 other people. All of a sudden, the first officer who arrives, the person calling 911 hangs up. Oh, the police arrived. I don't need to stay on the line. That is an abandoned call, but that isn't somebody that died on our watch.
Right.
Abandoned calls are, they sound terrible. There are an epidemic in the industry. If you look at the averages, and I'm not saying this to criticize any other agency, they have the same challenges we have. Abandoned calls are a national epidemic, meaning there is not enough call takers, operators, to get every single call the first time it rings into 911. But it doesn't mean they're forgotten forever. We have a system in place that those abandoned calls must be called back. They will never disappear from our computer system in communications if they're not called back. If you don't answer, if that operator doesn't answer that abandoned call that dropped, back when I started in 1994, and I started my police career as a 911 communications officer, doing exactly that job. Back then, we used to call them 911 hangups. And the policy was, okay, we got 100 calls, we couldn't answer them all. Somebody hung up because they couldn't wait anymore. And I understand every ring when you're calling 911 is sacred. It could be seconds and it seems like hours. I get it. You had to call them back. You had to call them back. Nowadays, you certainly have to call them back to the name. It appears on what's called a workup. I'm getting close to the name, a power up, which is a part of our system that whatever call we didn't pick up that dialed our 911 system and hung up before we were able to answer it appears on our screen, and you cannot make it go away until you call them back. And the human error aspect has been erased. In other words, if you have a bad employee that says delete, 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 let's make this look good.
Right.
Can't do it. The system obligates you to dial that number, call them back, and actually complete a cycle to prove that those people that fell, they didn't fall on the wayside. Perhaps too many calls came in at the same time and they couldn't be handled, just the same as any emergency room in this country. We would love to have a staff of doctors and medical personnel to tend to everyone the moment you walk in the door, but it doesn't work that way. It's a triage. We work the same way. We have a challenge. It is true. It is true, we're short. It is true, it's a national epidemic. It is true, we have abandoned calls. In other words, calls we can't answer right away because we have a shortage of personnel. This is one of the hardest jobs you can ever imagine. It's stressful. It's very difficult to learn. Like the councilman said, it's a very long learning curve. It is shift work. So there's a lot of challenges, but what I'm feeling confident about, we all live here. We're obligated to live here if we serve. Our families are here in Hialeah. Our friends, our loved ones. I feel confident that we're answering our 911 calls. I tell the public, be patient. It's going to ring sometimes, especially if it's a big critical incident where 100 people call. It's going to ring a bunch of times. Stay on the line. We will answer. This call will not go away and be forgotten. It will work. The administration, and I can tell you when I started in 94, we were so short and it was always a problem. They used to make us all work double shifts and weekends and everything. It was always a problem. And they've been piecemealing this. Every administration, I've been here 29 years. Every administration to save money with good intention, because the idea is to save money, has been piecemealing it, giving them little raises because they understood what was happening. People are leaving. People don't want this job. It doesn't pay enough. This administration finally listened, and I feel confident we have a system that is working, could get better, and this administration has given the most significant raise we've had in years. That's how we start. Let's see what happens. We have now postings that we want these jobs to be covered. LinkedIn, on our website, we have a $5,000 signing bonus. So we're trying, now we're competitive with our neighbors in other 911 call centers. Let's see what happens. Maybe they do need more benefits. We'll see what happens, how many applicants we get. But again, to answer your question, the abandoned calls is a term that's too broad to say, to actually define it exactly as one thing, because it's many type of calls. But the most important thing is it is not a forgotten call. It is not a forgotten, it doesn't disappear. You will be called back. You will be called back now. You were called back in the days that I did it 29 years ago when we were just starting to use computers there, when it was done on paper. We had to write the emergencies down and put them on a conveyor belt and send them to the dispatcher. Everybody got called back, and help is on the way. Now we've got a good salary. It's on our website. We're hoping to get more applicants. As I was conversing with somebody, it's funny, about this topic today, I have Fox News playing on the background. All of a sudden, I see an interview about 3 o'clock, and the the banner on the bottom, this police chief from Missouri was saying how he's offering a $10,000 signing bonus to anyone who wants to join his 911 dispatch center. And he was saying what a challenge it is to gain people. So they're having to do creative things just like we're doing. So yes, it is a problem. Nobody's denying that. Every call is important, but every call is answered. This is all we can do in order to attract more people. The only way you can get better is to put more bodies in there. And now with this raise, I think it's the best thing we've done in a long time. And we got to give it a chance. And in the meantime, who are we going to give it to? Our neighbors don't have better statistics than we do. And I'm not criticizing them. They're awesome. Miami-Dade, everybody runs outstandingly professional communication centers, yet they have the same challenge we have. So we can't give each other our problems. We have to solve it here, and we're way on our way to doing that. Thank you. Thank you for giving me this chance.
Yeah.
And my question to, I'm sorry, you.
No, I agree. I think that part of the solution, once we were presented this information from Colina Group, was coming up with one of the solutions, which is giving the highest pay increase in this department that the city has seen in over 20 years. They have never had such a high increase in that department. And this council voted for that. This council did that. And it's a nationwide problem. I saw that same interview today on Fox News. And we're seeing this across the nation. However, what we need to compare ourselves is, yes, this is data and data is very relevant and it's alarming when you don't understand the abandoned call definition, but we need to compare ourselves with other municipalities and the county, for example, because that was one of the things that was thrown around saying that we should give our dispatch department to the county. Well, we're seeing the county is doing worse than we are. So how is that a solution? A solution is employing this department appropriately and having that $5,000 sign-in bonus. I was speaking to somebody today from our fire department who came up with a really great idea. He said, you know what? We have Cohia. Why don't we open a department, one of the magnet programs to train the students as a 911 dispatch and prepare them, you know, because it's a long certification process. It's about a year. And I think we could be leading as a city in other departments. And that wasn't coined on my idea. That was a conversation I had with one of our firemen today, this afternoon. So I think that that's something we could dive into. This board is part of Cohia. We could open that as a possibility in our school. And that last year when they're juniors and seniors gain that certification, it takes about a year and help out with other departments. So I think that's a great idea. Anyone else that's within sitting out in the audience or online or any other council members that would like to add?
Question for Calvo.
Okay.
What was the
Can
question?
you
The
briefly-
question to you was with everything that we're seeing here. And I know that we're looking at the study and everything. Do you have any suggestions other than hiring more people or you think of anything with other research that you've done? Because you've obviously done
And look, absolutely.
incredible research, and I'm always very impressed of all the research that you've done. But do you have any ideas of how we can keep people here for the 911 dispatch?
Look, absolutely. Thanks for the question. A couple points. So kind of going back to what Councilwoman Perez said, the whole Cohia argument, and we actually do have a program already. We train juniors and seniors. We tour them in the facility. We ask them, please come and apply, you know, once you graduate, and we'll put you through this like expedited process because you already have some hours that you've been able to sit in, you know, if they're 18. I mean, there's requirements. If this council remembers, the last time we had a charter oversight board, I actually asked the principal of Cohia and I told them, why aren't we making it so that if we're putting students through this program, that they are forced to work in the city of Hialeah? And can we come up with some sort of agreement that outlines that? And the answer was, you know, we'll look into it. So hopefully they look into it and they have it ready for next school year, God willing. The other thing is, look, we're the city of Hialeah and we're the elected officials of Hialeah. We are actually among the top 100 cities. We're one of the few Republican major cities that exist in the United States of America. We're not in LA. We're not a Chicago.
Right.
We're not in New York. And I think, you know, we all agree with this mayor that is a law and order mayor that, you know, loves the police and is going to do everything to bat for them. And that's all great. But here we have 911 responders coming to this council and saying, if something is not done drastically, we're going to have an issue. And we're essentially saying, you know, we're just going to hire people and we'll just say, you know, I guess we'll come up with something. I think that falls short completely to our commitment to the residents. Look, I appreciate Councilman Zogby's comments. You know, I think they're highly relevant. Fact of the matter is, in 1994, when he was in 911 dispatch, the city was a lot different than what it is today. Today, it is a growing metropolis. There are people coming to this town every single day. We don't even know how many people live in Hialeah. But what we do know is that in this ominous tone of abandon, clearly calls are ringing and people in 911 aren't able to pick it up because of the staffing shortages. I think that's abundantly clear. And what I'm asking for is some transparency, some data, some facts that lets me wrap my hands around this and say, are we calling everybody back? I mean, I think that's a great question. We need to know. I mean, we could take someone's word for it, but I need to know that. And moreover than that, I mean, okay, great. We put these new incentives on board. How many people have actually applied? I mean, how many of those people are going to
Exactly.
graduate in a year? We need to know so much more before we can make any decision on this. And that's what I'm asking. I'm asking for that information. I don't think it's a big ask. You know, if we could just, you know, we could kind of ignore it. I guess that's another way of doing it. I don't know
I don't
that.
think anybody here is
Nobody's
insinuating
ignoring
at all.
Okay,
Nobody.
to
so
ignore it.
then
I don't think
so-
so on the
so
contrary.
if
we're-
nobody's
we're
ignoring
having a
it-
Conversation about it. So
If nobody's ignoring
it.
it, then I think the logical step would be, let's get more information.
Okay.
Because how, as policymakers, how can we make decisions without information? I mean, that is
Agree.
just, it's a
Agree.
principal element. Thanks.
Through the chair.
Yes, sir, you're recognized.
I'm glad we're talking about this topic. I'm actually not very well versed in this, and I'm glad that it was brought up, Councilman Calvo. I need to understand exactly, and again, we're just having a conversation here, right? We're spitballing, see what sticks, see what doesn't. I need to understand what is the exact issue though? Is it an operational issue or is it a staffing issue? Just for my knowledge, which one is it?
That's the question I'm asking.
Yeah.
I
so-
think for sure we
yeah.
all agree, part of it is staffing. Is it operational? I have no idea, right? I mean, clearly we need to hire more folks, but are we dropping the ball even with the folks we have? Is there questions of certifications? Is everybody that's working there really fully vetted up to par, above board? Are we good to go? There's questions about the department even having a certification that I think questions that need to be asked. So I think all these questions are good and well, but we just need answers to them.
Right. So the reason I ask is because, you know, if it's an HR issue, I think it's something that's being addressed, right? I mean, we're talking about different things that we're doing now, signing bonuses and all that, and increase in salary. But if it's an operational issue, then that's a big problem, right? That's a big problem if we're saying that this is an issue with our process and procedure. But you need to go based off of, at least me, right? At work, I look at these numbers all the time too, right? We look at call center metrics, right? And we look at certain service levels that we need to meet, set by ACA, right? I deal with Medicaid, so they're very strict. They're not what others are, but and so whenever one of our subs, for example, they don't meet that service level, well, we address it. If it continues, then we put them on a cap, right? It's usually how it works in those things. So it's easy for me to see the flag when I'm providing oversight on a monthly basis, right? I can see the number. So, you know, the mayor's office provided us with this data, right? And so I'm looking here at the first one is from January of this year to June 15. And so our abandonment rate was at 6.7%. And then in comparison to Miami-Dade County, same time period, 9.7%. So at face value, it's, you know, if I look at this, and again, seeing everything that's happened, I mean, I would think if there's a crisis here, well, then there's a big crisis in Miami-Dade County. So I wanted to understand what is, and again, I don't know too much of this, and I don't know if anyone in the audience could speak, but what is the threshold, right? Where we say, hey, man, the building's on fire, right? I need to understand that, because then again, I made some calls around some of the municipalities within Miami-Dade County, right? And you know, we have a very close neighbor where within the same time frame, it's at a 6.5%, right? So again, I was trying to understand, is it an HR issue or is it operation? You look outside of Florida, right? City of Memphis, which is great, by the way. They're very transparent. They put all of their data online, which is maybe something that we should be doing as well. But the city of Memphis, for example, the same time period, they were at an 11.6% abandoned rate, right? And then as a matter of fact, in 2015, it was at 45%. So I want to make sure that we're identifying, right, the issue, right? Or at least, I'm sorry, the flag, right? The oh my God, you know, the building's on fire, right? Because you know, last couple of days, I mean, it seems like no one's answering calls in Hialeah, right? So and that's a concern. That's a concern for me. It's a concern for a lot of our folks, our elderly residents that have called me scared, right? And telling me, hey, they maybe didn't understand. And they asked if 911's closed, right? So when before we make this type of, right, like this communication, I think we need to understand really what the problem is, right? Look, I've had a couple town halls on different parts of the city of Hialeah. We've had dozens and dozens of residents shown up. Most of you have been here as well. And we get a lot of complaints, man. We get complaints ranging from efficiencies, from trailers, speeding, garbage pickup. Yeah, I mean, you name it, right? But never have I once received a complaint about 911 calls. So my fear is, and again, I'm glad we're having this conversation because I've never really explored this. But I want to make sure that if we're gonna say that the building's on fire, I want to make sure that we're looking at certain triggers, right? At certain thresholds that tell us, hey, there's a problem here. Go ahead and review it, right? And so, you know, and I'll go a little more. It's City of Austin, right? The first 10 months of 2022, more than 61,000 abandoned calls. Hialeah had 7,800 all of last year. City of Fort Worth, you know, this is part of their internal audit team as part of their annual audit plan. From October 2019 to June 2020, it was about an 8.5%, you know, and then in June 2021 alone, 23% of calls abandoned.
So from your numbers, we're probably the lowest one.
From my numbers, I'm glad I'm living in Hialeah, right?
No.
But again, we don't. The thing is, you know, there's this national organization called the National Emergency Number Association. It's NENA. That's how it's, you know, the acronym. And they don't. Yeah. And they don't seem to have. They don't have like a national standard, right, for abandoned calls. What they do have are things that we should look at, right? Back to the councilman's point, you know, and Zogby as well. There's room for improvement, right? They have a standard for calls answered time, right? So 95% of calls should be answered within 20 seconds, right? 90% of calls should be answered within 15 seconds. So those are things that I believe, I mean, I don't know if we have today.
But I think that's kind of the data, what the councilman's probably asking for.
Right,
How do you
right,
get
right.
us, how long does it take?
So
usually?
and again, you know, we might have them and you know, for a
Who
long
knows?
time, maybe we didn't review them. I mean, I was talking to Kevin earlier and I was looking at the call center metrics. And I know there's some work to do here, Kevin, and it's not your fault, but you know, I mean, I look at the call center metrics for water and sewer. You know, and I'm going back and again, Kevin, I know, you know, you just got here. I got it. And you got, and I haven't met, I think.
You're gonna get dragged into everything for a while.
Yeah, but you know, May 27.5% abandon rate, right? April 28.5, March 30.5. I mean, and again, and when I requested these metrics, you know, people didn't even know where to go find them, right? So again, we probably do have these metrics for police as well. Maybe we haven't reviewed them. Maybe we should. I think before we jump like that, and again, if it wasn't for the councilman, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation today here. But I think before we jump and burn everything, I think we need to understand more or less, hey, when is it, you know, when should we jump and launch an investigation and tell folks that Hialeah is on fire, right? I you know, we talk about improving and again, I'm still confused whether it's an HR issue or maybe it's operational. We should invest maybe in better infrastructure. And some of my buddies from neighboring cities have talked about API, right? And within their call centers, implement the service goals that we're talking about. And again, if Councilman mentioned transparency, right? City of Memphis does it. I mean, I was blown away, right? City of Memphis has all of their stats on their website, part of the mayor's strategic initiative that shows people how we're doing, right? So maybe that's something that we should look at. But thank you, Councilman.
Thank you.
Through the
So,
chair.
yes, sir, you're recognized.
Elsa, a question for you. Talk to me a little bit about the bonus, exactly the way it works right now. Say we hire somebody, how does that?
Okay, so just a couple of things. Elsa Aramillo Velez, Human Resources Director. I'm sorry, let me just put this down here. A couple of things just to clarify for the record, clarity, and then I'll answer your question. There was a change in the ASME leadership, and that's how come we entered into the MOU. For months, we had been working with the prior AFSCME leadership, and they did not want to change salaries, and they did not want to do the things that we're doing now. Because you have a new AFSCME leadership, they are the ones who agreed with us. So that, just to clarify that for the record. In terms of other municipalities, they do from an operational standpoint, like, for example, my lovely city of Miami, they have an AT&T voice system, so they don't always answer. So their numbers may be even better than what they are because in fact, they have an answering system through AT&T, and they'll tell you, you have two people in front of you, you have a person in front of you. So
For
they're giving you
911?
that information.
Yes, and so
Yes.
does the Florida Highway Patrol.
Yes.
Because I
So there are some,
had to call them this weekend.
and so that improves their numbers
Yeah.
also.
Was an
So from
alligator
an
on the road.
operational, it does improve their numbers, and that's something that city of Miami does.
Yeah. Yeah.
Since implementing the $5,000 bonus, and it's a sign-up bonus, obviously, we increased the salaries from 31,000 to 40,000 as a starting salary, and we did increase the bonus for $5,000, and you get it after 5 or 6 months when you pass your preliminary training that's required by Florida statutes. So far in the month of June, since we started advertising now, with the bonus, we've received 9 applicants, so 9 applications. In terms of the number of vacancies we have in the city for this position, there's 7 vacancies. So we have a lot more vacancies in police than we do in dispatching.
Elsa, so they sign on, they get their bonus, then they have to take the certification?
No, they're gonna get their $5,000 after like 5 months of the certification. They sign up, right?
What if they don't pass the certification?
Well, they have different opportunities to pass it. So if
Okay.
they can do the work by Florida statute, they can do the work for a period of 12 months, even with some extensions, to pass the required testing and the required certifications by the state of Florida.
All right. 9 applicants, and we need how many more, you said?
So there's 7 vacancies right now, and we've received 9 applicants in the month of June. There are other, I have the numbers, there are other applicants. Of course, they do have to go through our police personnel who does all the background.
So also, before we started this program, and I know you forefronted this, what application we weren't getting any applications.
We were getting 1 or 2 a month. I have the numbers, I can tell you.
So since the budget increase for the hourly, since the bonus application, we're seeing more movement.
Yes, this month alone, we got 9 applicants.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. And there's progress going on.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Director, I just wanted to chime in here. Out of these 9 applicants, how many did we hire?
No. Once we.
9 meaning we hired
People
9.
who applied.
Okay,
These are people who applied. Remember,
Okay.
now they go through the police does the background.
okay.
We have to make sure we vet them
So 9
make sure.
people submitted their resume, but we haven't hired.
in
them.
the month of June. Yes, correct, because they're going through background.
Right, okay. And before the month of June, I guess, the month of May or wherever period of time you want to grab.
Yeah.
Out of applicants, right? What percentage of them, 6 months down the road or 1 year down the road, whatever you want to use,
Mhm.
whatever data you have, how many of them are sitting there as a 911 operator?
Well, I would have to pull specifically the information on that.
Right,
Certainly we can provide it through the mayor's office. But we are seeing more people applying.
right. Because when I toured 911 and I spoke with Commander Yanes, they told me, I was there the month of, what was it, April? He told me, in the month of April, 3 people applied, and then out of those 3, 2 pulled their applications out because they got there and they couldn't pass a check or something. And then the other guy, it didn't pan out either. So like whatever. it was-
Right. But you said that was in April.
Right,
So we didn't take the ASME MOU to be
May.
ratified, and we brought it before this council on May 23rd.
right.
So it's June when we actually start advertising this. And so we see that, hey, it's June and we are getting the results that we wanted.
Right.
Okay, so.
They
We're getting
increase the
applicants.
salary?
We just don't know if
Yeah,
if
so-
it's gonna pan out. right? It could
Right,
be.
right, right. But that could be with anybody. That could be, I mean, it happens all the time with
Right,
police
right,
officers, right? We get a bunch
Which
of
is my-
applicants
which
that
is
they
my
pass.
point right here, woefully understaffed. You know, we're just kind of trusting these 9 applicants to hold the beacon of our, future.
So through the chair, so sorry.
Yeah, no,
Through the
go
chair,
ahead.
So we identified the problem as a council. Well, you came to.
Turn on your microphone or turn it up. 'cause
So
I can't-
we identified the problem, I mean, at that time, because we know it's a national issue that we're having. We increased the budgets for us, for them, and the signing bonus, you're starting to see some movement, right?
Yes.
So before this, we weren't seeing nothing.
No, the numbers were very low, 1 or 2
Gotcha.
applicants.
Okay, so that's how, what is our total seats that need to be filled completely? What is the staffing that requires?
She said 7, I believe.
Uh,
right?
There's
total-
7
total-
vacancies.
Vacancies.
There's 7 vacancies. There's like, in total, like 44 people in the unit, but that also includes supervisors and dispatchers too, and supervisors and a quality assurance person. So that's in total.
Okay, and that, putting that aside, it's a very competitive field. Everybody wants 911 operators. How competitive are we now compared to the rest of the demand outside? You know,
Well, we're
there's-
better,
Uh-huh.
but as a city as a whole,
No,
our
no, no,
salaries are
No,
low,
I got you. No, and by the
Right?
way, we're trying to.
right?
increase as
We're
we
trying
go.
to increase it.
So specifically on 911 operator, are we competitive now? Like Mr. Zogby said before.
We are more competitive than before.
Gotcha. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes, sir, you're recognized.
To answer Councilman Scalvo question, without having the exact numbers, the fail rate is enormously high. It is. It is. 2 things I wanted to say, oversimplifying what we need to do right away. We heard it from the man who had boots on the ground in March, Glassmer. He came in, his message basically, we need more bodies. We don't make enough money. People are leaving. They're going to other places that they make more money. We stepped up to the plate. We did. We stepped up to the plate. So we're getting more applicants. The fail rate is high, which adds to the narrative. That's why it's so difficult for any agency to hire and retain. It is not a sweet job. I don't care what it pays. And it's like Paris Island Marine Boot Camp. People fail with a very high rate because the demands are high. But what else can we do? All we can do is increase the pay. We want to catch more fish. We make the bait better. We hope they bite. We hope they apply. The more people that apply, hopefully we'll get some viable candidates that will make the cut and stick around. And they'll pay, and what the director meant with is some people can get their bonus in 5 months, some in a year. Outstanding trainees who complete their training in 5 months, upon completion of training, will get their $5,000 bonus. If it takes them a little longer, a year or so, which they can't take, but they're sticking to it, well, they'll get it within a year. But what Glassmer told us basically, or essentially, is they need more money because we're not competitive. We're losing it to our neighboring agencies. We've upped the ante now. We're getting more applicants, but there is no guarantee. There is no guarantee, and every agency has the same challenges. I don't care if they apply here or apply in Aventura, which is excellent. They have a high turnover rate. They pay well. Miami Beach, everywhere. They're excellent departments, yet they have a high turnover rate because it is an enormously challenging job. So it's something we have to overcome. And the only way we can overcome it is getting more applicants. And every time we get applicants, maybe we'll get 1 or 2 from that pool of applicants. And that's all you can do. They have to go through a background check. They have to be completely trusted because they're going to know a lot of sensitive information and have access to a lot of sensitive information, a lot of police databases. So they have to go through an extensive background check. And then on top of that, they have to train for this job, which is terrifically challenging. And so, yes, there is a high failure rate. 9 applicants, who knows how many will pass, but that's all we can do. I think we're on the right track. It was the same problem when I was here in 94. We were short. And the same thing Glassmer told us, and it was all about the money. That's what employees want, more money, and that's all we can offer them. We can't force them to come. Maybe they'll need more benefits later on. Let's see how this works out. But I truly think this is the right track. I truly do. Thank you.
Elsa? this department doesn't fall into our pension programs?
So the general employee pension plan was closed by the city council on April 1st of 2012.
So some of these employees
So
are
every-
not on the pension?
Right, so right now you have the general employees, anybody hired before April 1st of 2012 is in the city's pension defined benefit plan. And anybody hired after April 1st of 2012 is in a 401 defined contribution plan. So
And
you have that.
Is that any of, did the part of the negotiation with ASME, is that one of the requirements, something that they've been asking for? What is it that you read?
We are about to start negotiations again with ASME. So we'll see what it is they ask. We have a meeting scheduled with ASME.
Okay. So I think that would be a topic for us to discuss. And opening it up to that department, I think that department deserves to be part of the citywide pension plan. They are our first responders. They deal with, they're the ones that help us and give us the resources we need. And we need to give them that respect. So I would like to see if maybe Ruth, maybe we could come up with some kind of numbers once we meet those vacancies of, I don't know, what is it, 44 total employees? And if we could come up with some kind of budget or numbers of what it would look like putting those employees onto some type of pension plan. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Luis. Keep in mind that those employees are Ask Me employees. So when you give to a body, you have to give to everybody the same. And that's why, is that not correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so
And
when,
Also, I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
You do have, right now, you do have more employees in the 401 than in the other pension, just so you know.
Okay, that's where I was going. So in 2012, when they drew the line, I was one of the people that were very adamant about stating that the minute we take away the pensions from our employees, everybody's going to run out the door. And the reason that happens is, again, is what I said before. Government gives you stability. Supposedly, that's what government used to do. When you work for the government, you had stability, you had pension, you had insurance, you felt you had benefits. In 2012, all those benefits that everybody was very excited about being employees of government were removed. And I know they were removed because of the finances. They were removed. They were unsustainable. But if you want to keep good employees, you have to offer them something that will make them stay, that they can't get somewhere else. And again, I said, when I worked in private sector, and in private sector, you made a lot of money, but you had to pay your own insurance. You didn't have any retirement, any benefits other than you pay your insurance. That's a group insurance if they had it.
Right.
If they had it. So, I am extremely confident that if we could find a way to help them and that we did the salary, we did the bonus. But I don't think that's going to be enough. And we have to figure out what the needs are and see what we could afford, because we can't bankrupt the city in order to keep something, because then there's no city for them to work anyways. So we have to find a happy medium. We have to find a happy medium. But there are a lot of employees that are Ask Me employees that don't have that same benefit.
And just through the chair, and I guess if we ever see a challenge, I know the council is going to be open in us to retain, especially 911 call centers. So I mean, I'm open. And once you take the pension out, you get into the competitive field of just private America. So you're actually competing salary for salary.
Correct.
And then that's more competitive. So I mean, I myself feel very comfortable to be transparent with the administration. I feel transparent every time that I've asked questions. Myself, my experience, it's been clear, to be honest. I mean, that's why I stand as a council. And I feel comfortable with the leadership that we have right now HR bringing up front what you did back in April, right? And back in April, you sounded the alarm saying we got to do something about it. As far as paying the 911 operators, we actually reacted to it.
He's complimenting you.
Okay, no, I was gonna say, no,
It
we
didn't sound like
tried.
No, no, no.
We tried for months. We tried last August, last September
I remember
for the ASME union to agree with us because we knew we had
an issue.
an issue. And, but at that time, that leadership in the AFSMI said no, because they wanted increases for everybody in the AFSMI. And we had numerous meetings.
Gotcha. Okay.
Elsa, do you mind keeping us abreast of this employment, and how many people are going through the process? And one thing
Absolutely,
I think it's of interest to everyone here at the council.
absolutely.
And I also reached out to our chief of police, and I asked him if this was a crisis. I asked for his opinion. He told me that he had spoken to some of the council members that are up here, and I think that that's important. He is the head of our city. He has his family that lives here. I know that he wants to maintain all of us safe. And he said, rest assured that there isn't a crisis here in the city of Hialeah, that there is nothing to be alarmed. I know that, these numbers may seem confusing and alarming for those of us that don't understand what that abandoned call means. And one of the questions that I had that maybe, I don't know if Councilman Zogby or somebody else that's maybe here that works in that department might be able to answer is, we have a system in place that which the mayor confirmed, because he says he's been having meetings on this topic as well, that if you call 911 and let's say the dispatchers that are present in the room can't answer, it will automatically have, a call service that switches you and transfers you to the Miami-Dade County Dispatch Department. So again, that's something that those calls, just because they're busy, we do have a contract, and I believe that's something we pay a supplement to Miami-Dade County to take on these calls. Am I incorrect in saying that? They do. So this is something that I don't know how that falls within abandoned calls. Is that an abandoned call because we didn't take it and maybe the county took it? How do those numbers are skewed?
Through the chair.
Yes, sir.
Unfortunately, it is an abandoned call when it's automatically transferred. But again, to your point, it doesn't disappear. And yes, we have a mutual aid agreement with the county that they take our overflow.
Can you repeat that? Yes, it is considered an abandoned.
It's
Yes.
considered,
If the county picks it up.
unfortunately, if we don't answer it on our end, even when it's transferred, it's considered an abandoned call
But it was.
on our end, but somebody will answer it. Happens all the time. And the overflows go to the county and they help us out. And that's the way it works. It doesn't disappear into the infinite universe. The call, something happens to the call and it is handled.
So I wonder if
But I'm a
any of
little,
the
sorry, I'm a little
data
confused.
could.
It's,
Hold
didn't you
on,
just say?
Councilman,
didn't you
Councilman,
just
give me
say-
just 1 second.
Didn't you just
So,
say that the county was
Councilman-
worse off than
Councilman,
us?
Councilman,
How can it?
you're not recognized at the moment, sir. So now I lost my train of thought because you interrupted me. So is there a way of getting maybe some kind of call log that shows us if those calls are transferred to Miami-Dade County and they were picked up, the percentage that were picked up from that abandoned? Is there a way that maybe we could look into that? Can you? From back to the stream of conversation, the thread that we're having.
We can request that information.
Okay, so from that, let's say that 5% that we had in in 2022, that 7% that we had from the abandoned calls, how many from that 7%
Went to the county.
went to the county
Sure.
and were considered abandoned calls? Thank you. Sir, Decorum, you're recognized.
All right, so weren't we just saying, or I believe what I heard was the county's worse off than us? I think we were quoting these percentages and saying that 2-3%, Miami-Dade County is at 9, we're at 6, but they're our backup. I mean, that's just paradoxical. It makes no sense.
Repeat yourself again. What do you mean?
We're saying that the county's missing or at least abandoning more calls than us. I mean, that was a point that was
9%,
made
yeah.
by several of you. But you're saying the counties are backup. So we shouldn't worry because we have this agreement and the county's just backing us up. So which one is it? Are we better or are they better?
Through the chair.
Yes, sir, you're recognized.
We have no other choice. And it doesn't mean that because their percentages of abandoned calls may be higher than ours, that necessarily the ones that overflow over to them will be abandoned. Plus, I believe I heard you say that perhaps that would be a good idea to hand over our communications to the county. So I don't get it. I mean, we have no choice. We have no choice. Where do we send the call? The county will get our overflow and it won't disappear from them. Yes, their numbers may not be better than ours because they have the same challenges, but we have no choice. Something has to happen to that call. If we can't answer it, something has to happen. So that is what happens. That's the way it's been since I was working there. And I can't figure a better system. What we need is more bodies, and that's the reality. Some things are just a harsh reality. So that's what we have. We go to the war with the army we have, not the one that we wish we had. And that's our overflow, the county. And I'm sure we're not unique in that.
Look, here's where I'm at. For a second, I'll step back and I'll pretend that I'm sitting there at the audience. I'm Abdel, just to single you out. And I'm thinking, okay, here's what I'm hearing. All right. Totally unbiased. I'm just listening to what you guys are saying. You're saying the county's worse than us. We're actually doing pretty well. We just need more people. Clearly, we need more people to the point that we have to like raise salaries, and we have this report saying that we're woefully understaffed. And so it's just going to be a matter of, waiting and hoping that these applicants, or maybe we just get a couple 17-year-olds from Cohia and they'll solve our 911 issues. And I get all that. And like, we're asking for data, but all of this kind of sounds to me like you're agreeing with me and you're saying that we need an investigation. We need to figure out what's going on so we can make the decisions. And maybe the decision is a retirement pension. Maybe it's not. Maybe it is giving it to the county. And my statement was exactly, I think we should explore it. I don't know if it's the right choice, but we need to explore it. How can I know without having the data? And that's what I'm asking for. I'm asking for the data. I think a lot of people are asking for different pieces of information, and cohesively, that's called an investigation, folks, because bottom line is this. We all agree. I think every single person here agrees that we don't have enough people, and that it's going to take a while to get to the point where we might have enough people where there's no assurances. What's happening in the interim period? Are we dropping the ball? If the answer is no, perfect. I will sleep good at night. And if the answer is we are dropping the ball, then that's a problem, because clearly this abandon, it might not be that 32,000 calls in the last 2 years, every single call was an emergency that was life or death. But even if just one call, I mean, what if that call was you? What if that call was your family member? You would be here and you would be very angry. So to just dismiss and say that we're just going to wait and see what happens, I think that's poor.
Through the chair, I don't
Yes,
think
ma'am,
anybody
you're
was
recognized.
dismissing
I didn't
anything that
hear
we're
the word
saying at all.
dismiss.
At
Yeah.
all.
Mhm.
At all. We're trying to find solutions and seeing if it's an operation or is it an employee or retention.
Okay.
So every time we end up the conversation, it seems like we need to hire more people, that we need to fill that. Let's assume that we can fill them in the next 6 weeks, 8 weeks. And let's sit down and say, no, now we have a huge problem. We could either have the mutual aid or have sit with the county and then figure it out then. But I think that from April till now, the fact that we're getting more people interested in this program, that before we didn't have it, I think we're walking down the sidewalk on the right side of the street, on the correct side of the street. Nobody's saying that it's going to be taken care of immediately. We're saying there is an issue. We're thanking you for bringing the issue up to us. We're having this conversation because you brought up the issue. So
Absolutely.
let's together come up with a solution, and let's find out what's going on there. That everybody agrees with.
So would you support me in a very practical perspective? Would you support me right now if this council took a vote and said we are calling an investigation into this department?
So, Mr. Calvo, what is this that you presented us? Doesn't it say findings and recommendations, March 2022?
Absolutely.
So we are in what month? We are in July of 2023. Nothing has
June.
changed. Elsa had just said, our department hasn't changed. We haven't been able to hire anybody. Since this date, we really haven't been able to train anybody. We still have 7 vacancies. The department is probably still under the same investigation that was done in March. Yes, right? How much did we pay for this study a year ago? $30,000, 35? $30,000. So do you justify spending another $30,000 a year later when they're telling you that the department hasn't changed? This is still gonna be,
Who's saying
What's-
anything about spending money?
how are we gonna do an investigation?
Do it
The
internally.
investigation is what we just asked for. We just asked to bring forward call logs, to bring forward data, to give us a monthly report from HR telling us how many people they're hiring. We came up with a training program, which we all sit on the board for a year, that you mocked and said that they're 17-year-olds. When they graduate, they're 18 years old.
I
So
graduated at
you-
17.
you're complaining with a list of complaints, but you have not said one solution.
I have.
Councilwoman
provided a
Casals
solution.
Munoz has asked you, what is the solution? And you have yet to spit out one. You just keep on saying the word investigation, investigation.
Listen.
What's the
this-
investigation?
This body,
Who are we going to
This
hire?
body
What
about-
is your, what are you solving?
this body about 1 hour ago approved a $1.2 million master plan to see what Hialeah is gonna look like maybe in 25 years. And you're telling me there's not money to figure out what's going on in 911 today?
No, I'm
I
not saying that
never
there's-
said that we need to spend money on this. I'd love to do it internally if we can.
So how do we do it? Give us, what's an investigation, please? Because everyone here wants to solve it. Everyone here wants to solve
We
it.
can
But
absolutely
if we
do.
just like to repeat a soundbite for media and scare the residents, like Councilman has said that we're getting calls from the elderly saying, oh my God, there's only 4 people working that you said at the
3. I
911.
saw 3 people.
But if it's not become a crisis and the chief of police said that it's not become a crisis and we're finding solutions within our HR department, what else do you want? Tell
Well,
us.
employees came to this body and said if drastic changes aren't done,
So
there's
I
a
asked
problem.
for the pension for a budget from Miss Ruby. What else should we do? Yes, ma'am. Wait, I think he was gonna give us a solution. Hold on. Let's not interrupt him. So what was the solution? I'm sorry. Let's not, please.
Look, I'll repeat what I said in the beginning. We need to have all the facts. We need to have all the data. We
Yes.
can't be shooting from the hip and making decisions, talking about pensions and this and that, but we don't even know what the facts are. And that's what I've been asking from the first time I opened my mouth. I said, I need to know all the facts. We need to have all the data. We need to do an investigation. That's the only way we're gonna get the information.
Okay, so what's the investigation again? What is the investigation? What do you want?
Through the chair.
Who's doing the, who
I-
would you
I-
like to see the investigation?
Well, look, ideally, I would like to see the administration to put together an investigation, a report, findings, data, a comprehensive summary. A report like this could be 40, 50 pages. You know, I'm not picky. If, if there's an issue of lack of transparency, of lack of trust when that report is put together, then I would at that time potentially push for an independent group.
Got it.
But we're not
Okay.
there yet because right now I have nothing to work with.
Okay.
You.
Yes, ma'am.
Through the chair?
Yes, ma'am.
This report that you gave us today, that's just certain pages. This is the one that Colina did, correct?
Yes.
$30,000.
Did you have the whole report?
We all got the
We all
report.
got it.
You have it, right?
Yes.
The whole report. So that should be like
Well-
a stepping stone to.
Well, the
to
problem,
what's
the
going
problem
on.
with Colina is that they were hired really to look at the police department. So obviously I'm showing you pages 44, 45, and 46. That means
You're
there's
correct.
43 pages about the police department and there's 3 about
Uh,
911. I like to see the flip side. I'd like to see 911 45 pages, and figure out what's going on based on that. I mean,
Okay, so we could ask the administration.
Mari?
Yeah, so certainly we're looking at individual matrix within that department to ensure that we continue improving on our services, right? But I'd like to share some of the data that we've put together from other municipalities, which I think will, shed some light on these abandoned calls and how we compare to some of the other municipalities within the county. So City of Pinecrest in 2023 currently has a 12.15%, so over 12% of abandoned calls. 11.5 in 2022, 13.9 in 2021. The City of Aventura, 5.4, 2023, 5.7, 2022, and 5.3, 2021. City of Coral Gables, 7.6, 2023, 7.8, 2022, 9.5, 2021. The city of Miami Beach, that we benchmark ourselves against so much, 6.6, 2023, 7.6, 2022, 9.5, 2021. And then we have the city of Miami that you have all heard from somebody who worked there before, that currently has a system that automatically picks up all calls, right? So how does a department that automatically picks up all calls through a computerized system still have abandoned calls? 2.88, 2023, 2.33, 2022, 2.9% in 2021. So that is abandoned calls through a computerized system, right? So that should shed some light on the fact that, this like Councilman Sogby explained before, the dropped calls is a very broad group bucket of calls, and is almost impossible not to have abandoned calls in the department. Now, I do believe that, you're all asking for different benchmarks and how we can continue to improve. And certainly the increase in staffing will allow us the opportunity to continue to increase those benchmarks in the department. Thank you.
Through the chair.
Yes, you're
Yeah,
recognized.
I think we're done with this topic. Hearing those numbers, what are we talking about? Like, if there's a problem in Hialeah, then we have a state of emergency, right? We have a national emergency. We need to call the president and the governor to put together a task force to address this. I trying to be cool, right? I'm trying to really understand, people's sides and thought process, right? But we have to be data driven. I think we all just said that right now on the council, we need to be data driven. Well, what data did we use to trigger this crisis, right? What data did we use? Because an article came out last week and then there was a press conference yesterday, right? So are we going to react to articles? Is it because if that is the standard, if that's the type of precedence that we want to set, it's going to be very, very dangerous. Hialeah is filled with elderly. Hialeah is filled with vulnerable populations. Hialeah has the highest concentration of assisted living facilities in all of the state of Florida, right? When we say things like this, right, it puts them at uneasy, right? It makes them scared, right? We get calls for no reason asking me if our 911 department shut down. So this is an HR issue, right? Same way we're having issues across the board, right? In different departments of not just the city of Hialeah, but all municipalities. We don't have, right, the set number of police officers, right? We don't have a set number of firefighters. I mean, do we need to launch an investigation for that as well? So, and Councilman, I respect you a lot, and I wanted to have this conversation. Never, I mean, again, it wasn't even an issue in none of the town halls that we've had. I've never had calls about this until I saw the article. So I thought, well, maybe this is a problem. And we do simple research, which I would have thought maybe the news outlet would have done before posting an article. And we see that we're actually doing pretty well. Is there room for improvement? Absolutely. But Eddie, can you do us a favor? Can you just get us all the metrics that we've asked for? The problem is that when we call something a specific title, it says 1,000 words, right? Very simple. Kevin and his team sends me call center metrics every single month, right? I ask them for it. Same thing that PD can do for us moving forward, and we don't have to call it an investigation, because the moment you do, then it creates chaos, it creates crisis, and we're looking at the numbers, and the numbers show that we're actually one of the best. So Eddie, when you get a chance, make sure it's distributed to everybody, so we can take a look at that moving forward. Okay.
And thank you, Mari, for those numbers, considering that those municipalities have much less population than we do. I think we're doing very well.
Through the chair.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I don't know how much longer, and I'll preempt this by saying I'm going to call for a motion to end the debate when I'm done saying what I'm about to say. But I don't want to end it without this strong message. None of us up here, we all live in Hialeah. We all have loved ones who live with us in Hialeah. We all care about our community. None of us are dismissing anything.
Correct.
According to what I know from all the communications workers, according to what I know from what we all found out at the same time, none of us discovered this on our own. We heard it from Glasmer in March, all of us at the same time. It's a money issue. And one more thing, a money issue now that's been addressed. That's all we can do to attract more applicants. And hopefully we'll take some of those that have been going to other agencies who paid way better than we do. Now we're more competitive. There's only one thing left. And the president asked clearly, yeah, ideally the benefits to keep them here, a pension, restoring a pension plan. But that's something that administration and HR will have to figure out if we can afford it. And I'm sure that if we can afford it, I'm telling you that everyone here will back you. If you bring us, and that's what we can do, we promise, if you bring us numbers, like I say, I think we can afford to do this. And that way we've increased their pay and we're offering them a restored pension again. And I think we can keep them, whether it be by an agreement, whether like an isolated agreement, like whatever. We're all for that, I believe, because we believe that that's what they're missing. A pay increase and an upkick on their benefits. And we're all for it. And that's all we can do now to recruit more people. We are doing it. We're on the right path. And I trust that we're on the right path and we're not dismissing anything. They needed more pay. It's all about the pay and benefits. It's all about that. They needed more pay. And if we can give them more benefits, figure it out, bring it to us. And we'd love to do our part.
Absolutely.
And that's what I wanted to say. Other than that, without the mayor being here, and this is something that really should involve administration. I'd like to motion to end this debate for this meeting because it is getting late and we have a
Yes.
P&Z.
And thank you, Councilman, for bringing this up, for us having a constructive conversation together, motion to
Madam-
defend it,
Madam
but it's
President.
new business, so we don't need.
Madam
a
President, if I may,
Yeah.
the correct motion would be to motion to limit the debate and ask anybody who's on this board if they would need, how much additional time they would need.
Can I rephrase to limit and then till at least, that's my suggestion, if anybody else, till we reconvene in August, but please.
I think, yeah, I think we've all exhausted our ideas.
Unless there's any debate about that motion that the council member wants to make, if the council is in agreement that you had ample discussion, then you could just proceed on to the next business.
No, I'd like to keep talking.
Okay.
Should we take the roll on the second motion, madam?
Then you actually need a second on the motion to limit the debate.
So I have a
You-
motion to limit the debate by Councilman Zogby.
Can I hear what additional time?
No, he wants to end it.
No, the proper motion is motion to limit the debate.
Okay, like I said, motion to limit the debate, and I also have to give a time. We
Sure,
can
I mean,
readdress this when we reconvene, whatever that
3 minutes.
August date is.
Well, that's a motion to adjourn or to end the debate until that later date. Okay.
Ma-
Is that what you want to do?
Madam
Yes.
Attorney, what, were you gonna
I
suggest something else?
Yes,
Go ahead, please.
so I think that, this is a subsidiary motion. There is no motion pending, right? It would motion to end the debate or motion to adjourn would apply to a main motion. I think this is an ample discussion on a new business. I don't think that council member made any motions. I think he's asked for support, but hasn't made any motions. So there is no main motion pending before this body. I think that as a matter of procedure, if he wants to continue to deliberate, then I think we could probably entertain council members Zogby's motion to limit the debate. You've
Oh, you
debated
mean for a time
over an-
today?
Yes, for like a
time
minute.
today.
You say limit the
You-
debate to 1 minute.
You could do 1
And
minute,
that's
you
it.
can put the clock, you can put 3 minutes, you can put the clock
Motion
in.
to limit the debate to 1 minute. Do I have a second? And then I'm giving an example. Yeah, no. So that's what you would say. And then you got a second. No, that's, you can't, Miss Casals Munoz, you can't do that. She just explained the motion that it has to be by limited, a specific amount of time. Council, can you motion?
Motion to limit the debate to 1 more minute, which is essentially as quickly as we can do it.
Do I
Motion
have a
for that.
second? Can we please call the roll?
Ms. Garcia Robes?
Yes.
Ms. Perez?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez? Mr. Tumidor?
Yes.
Mr. Zagvi?
Yes.
Mr. Calvo?
No.
Ms. Casal Munoz?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay,
Well,
I think the clerk would now start the clocking.
okay. Is there
President
any
can
more
continue.
council discussion on the
yeah,
item?
I'd like to use my 1
Please
minute
turn off the
to,
timer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I don't have to reset it.
Yes.
I'm gonna do it here.
let me know when
Go
you're
ahead,
ready.
sir. Go ahead, sir.
I'd like to use my 1 minute to make this very easy for everybody. As a resident of Hialeah, as an elected official, I'm entitled to public records requests. So I'll make it very easy. I want any and all records relating to the 911 department. I don't care if it takes up this entire auditorium. I want everything.
Electronically or printed?
I'm able to handle
Let's ask
both.
for electronic, because if it's everything, it needs to be a zip file.
That it's kept.
It's produced in
The
the form that
record's
it's kept.
electronic, we can give it electronic. If it's printed, we can give it. printed.
Okay, all right.
Council member, I understand you've made a request. I think the clerk has policies, the city has adopted policies, and the law clearly dictates how we handle public records
I'm
requests.
sure you'll
Yes.
go
But-
through those policies.
But in order to be reasonable, I think the clerk and I can work with you and identify specifically what kind of records, time periods, because
It's
the
redacted,
city
it's
also
emergency.
has, the city also has a policy to estimate time that it would require it to call the records. These are sensitive records, probably there's redactions. So these are items that we can speak to you about. And then once we at least classify the types of records and identify what types of records you can request, we can create a more manageable request to work on.
Absolutely.
Thank
But
you.
For the
yeah,
record, your minute was paused. Go ahead.
Absolutely. And I mean, you have my standing request. I hope to hear from the clerk's office and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any other council discussion? All right, does anyone want to take a restroom break or do we move on to zoning? Okay, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for sitting with us today. Anyone that's going to speak on a zoning item, could you please stand up to be read the oath?
Las personas que quisieran prestar sus opiniones delante de esta junta, por favor, pónganse de pie y alcen la mano derecha.
Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God. If so, say I do.
Usted jura o afirma que el testimonio que va a dar será la verdad, toda la verdad y únicamente la verdad y que Dios sea su testigo. Por favor, diga que sí, si la respuesta es afirmativa.
Let the record reflect that all have responded in the affirmative.
En el archivo público constará que todos han respondido afirmativamente.
We don't have quorum.
One, two, three, four. We have four.
No, but she has to go to the restroom. So it's only three.
3 minutes, go. 3 minutes, is that okay? Madam President?
3 minutes.
Go home. Hello, council members, please, let's return to chambers to start our planning and zoning portion of the meeting. Item PZ one, please.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance vacating, closing, and abandoning for public use of the right-of-way located on Southeast Tenth Court between Southeast Tenth Avenue and Southeast Twelfth Street, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. This item is on second reading and public hearing. Is there anyone in council chambers or online that would like to speak on behalf of this item? I have a motion on the table from Councilwoman Casals Munoz. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Vice President Garcia Robles. Please call roll.
Ms. Perez?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez? Mr.
I
Tumidor?
think you gotta turn on your microphone,
Mr.
Councilman.
Zogby is
Yes.
away.
Thank you.
Mr. Calvo is also away. Ms. Casal Munoz?
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robles?
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Thank you. Item PZ two.
Thank you.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance rezoning property from M1 Industrial District to TOD Transit Oriented Development District and granting a variance permit to allow 8.5 feet setback along Southeast 12th Street for stairways to access the building where 20 feet is required and allow a 1 foot setback along Southeast 10th Avenue where 20 feet built to line is required. Contrary to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, Section 98-1544, subsection D3I, 98-1553, subsection D3I. Properties located at 1171 Southeast 10th Court and 1055 Southeast 12th Street. Hialeah zoned M1 Industrial District. Repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. This item is on second reading and public hearing. Is there anyone in council chambers or online that would like to speak on behalf of this item?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion by Councilwoman Casals Munoz and I have a second by Councilmember Rodriguez. Can we please call the roll?
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mr. Tumidor?
Yes.
Mr. Zogby is still away. Mr. Calvo is still away. Ms. Casal Munoz?
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robles?
Yes.
Ms. Perez?
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Thank you. Moving on to item
Thank you,
PZ
madam.
three. Have a good evening. Moving on to item PZ three.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance rezoning property from R1 one family district to R32 multiple family district, granting a variance permit to allow 0 feet setback where 25 feet are required for the encroachment of a 200 square feet pergola into the front setback and 20 feet setback where 25 feet are required for the encroachment of a patio wall on the ground floor and balconies above into the front setback. Contra to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, Section 98-589, property located at 1797 West First Avenue, Hialeah, zoned R1 one family district, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. This item is on second reading and public hearing. Do we have any council discussion online or in chamber?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion by Councilwoman Casals Munoz. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Rodriguez. Can we please call the roll?
Mr. Tumidor?
Yes.
Mr. Zogby is away. Mr. Calvo?
Item PZ three, Mr. Cabo. Skip him.
Ms. Casal Munoz?
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robles?
Yes.
Ms. Perez?
Yes,
Mr. Rodriguez? We need to wait for his vote if he's
we'll keep on
present.
going and we'll wait for him to finish. PZ four, his
So-
ordinance is being postponed till August 8th. Give him a moment.
64 is postponed?
Yes, till August 8th. Councilman, you ready for your vote? PZ three,
For PZ three, yes.
go ahead.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Thank you.
Councilmember Calvo, if I can please have your vote on item PZ one.
PZ one, yes.
Your vote on item PZ two?
I'm sorry, I misread that. PZ one is the right of way. I'm voting no on PZ one for the record. And then PZ two, I'm voting, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to PZ five, please.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance granting a special use permit pursuant to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, section 98-161 to allow a pharmaceutical research center conducting clinical trials to test new drugs, already approved drugs, devices, and other forms of treatment to operate in conjunction with an existing medical office. Property located at 900 East 9th Street, Hialeah, Zone C1, Restricted Retail Commercial District. Repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Okay, this item is also on second reading and public hearing. Do I have any council discussion or anyone to motion? I have a motion from Councilwoman Gonzalez Munoz. Do I have a second? Second by Councilmember Rodriguez. Can we please call the roll?
Mr. Zogby is still away. Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Casa Munoz, Ms. Garcia Robes, Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez, Mr. Tumidor.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Thank you, council members.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Moving on to PZ six, right? PZ six, please.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance approving a final plat of Northwest Hialeah, accepting all dedication of avenues, streets, roads, and other public ways, together with all existing and future planting of trees, shrubbery, and fire hydrants. Property located at 4220 West 91st Place, Hialeah, Florida. Repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. This item is on second reading and public hearing. Is there anyone in council chambers or online that would like to speak on behalf of this item?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion by Councilwoman Gonzalez Munoz, and I have a second by
Second.
Vice President Garcia Robes. Can we please call the roll?
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Casa Munoz.
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes.
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez. Mr. Tumidor.
Yes.
And Mr. Zogby is still away. Motion carries. The item is approved.
Thank you. PZ seven, please.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance approving a final plat of South Florida Autism Charter School, accepting all dedication of avenues, streets, roads, or other public ways, together with all existing and future planting of trees, shrubbery, and fire hydrants. Property located at 3751 West 108th Street, Hialeah, Florida. Repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. This item is also on second reading and public hearing. I have a motion by Councilwoman Gonzalez Munoz. Do I have a second?
Second. Okay.
I have a second by Vice President Garcia Robes. Can we please call the roll?
Ms. Casa Munoz.
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes.
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez. Mr. Tumidor.
Yes.
Mr. Zogby is still away. Mr. Calvo.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Thank you. PZ eight.
Second reading and public hearing of proposed ordinance approving a final plat of RIRC subdivision, accepting all dedication of avenues, streets, roads, and other public ways, together with all existing and future planting of trees, shrubbery, and fire hydrants. Property located at 4160 Palm Avenue and 22 West 42nd Street, Hialeah, Florida. Repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. This item is also on second reading and public hearing. I have a motion by Councilwoman Gonzalez Munoz. Do I have a second? I have a second by Councilmember Rodriguez. Please call the roll.
Ms. Garcia Robes.
Yes.
Ms. Perez.
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez. Mr. Tumidor.
Yes.
Mr. Zogby still away. Mr. Calvo.
Yes.
Ms. Casa Munoz.
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved.
Thank you. PZ nine.
First reading of proposed ordinance rezoning property from R1 one family district to RO residential office, granting a variance permit to allow lot width of 65 feet and in total lot area of 6,890 square feet or 7,500 square feet is the minimum required. Allow rear setback of 24 feet where 45 feet is required. Allow 3 parking spaces at the front setback facing east third place, where all parking shall be located at the rear of the building, and allow 5 parking spaces where 6 parking spaces are required. All contrary to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, sections 98-779, 781 subsection 2 and 98-2189 subsection 16A. Property located at 320 Northeast Eighth Avenue, Hialeah, zoned R1, one family district, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. This item is on first reading. No, this motion was overturned by us last council meeting for recommendation of denial from the planning board, and so this is its first reading before us on the council.
Got it.
Do we have any topic or conversation on this?
Motion.
I have a motion, that's a second, so I have a motion by Councilwoman Casals Munoz, and I have a second by Councilman Calvo. Can we please call the roll?
Ms. Perez?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez? Mr. Tumidor?
Yes.
Mr. Zogby is away. Mr. Calvo?
Yes.
Ms. Casal Munoz?
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes?
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved. Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for August 8th, 2023.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Frank de la Paz. I don't want to lose the opportunity to welcome Mr. Alexander Magrizo to the dais as a assistant city attorney. I do believe that's your first city council meeting.
No, you
I
have
hope
to-
that you will be more progressive.
Progressive.
More progressive, if you get to be here more often, which I'm pretty sure you will in the very near future.
Okay, thank you,
Thank
Mr. De La Paz.
Good luck.
Moving on to item, and that's true, I thought that this was your second one. I don't know why I thought that Lorena was absent and you took over one day. Yes, I think you forgot. No. Why do I picture? I'm having deja vu, like he was.
presented before the council.
No, but I thought he sat here before. Well, good, thank you. I have a terrible memory. PZ 10, please.
First reading of proposed ordinance rezoning property from RO Residential Office District to B1 Highly Restricted Retail District and granting a variance permit to allow front setback of 16 feet where 20 feet are required, all contrary to Hialeah Code of Ordinances, section 98-929. Property located at 291 West 49th Street, Hialeah, zoned RO Residential Office District, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing penalties for violation hereof, providing for a severability clause, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. This item is on first reading. Who is the applicant for this address? ¿Quién está aquí para esta dirección? Para el número 10. He was online. Jesús, puedes ver si hay alguien online. We only have one more item and I see that there's a few people no se vea, ¿cómo se llama?
Dr. Pablo Walla.
Pablo?
You saw this application when they came for a land use amendment. So this is one of the old buildings that were houses adapted into residential office buildings.
Okay.
And they're going to demolish the house and build a new modern building. He's a doctor, maybe he had an emergency, I don't know what
Yeah,
happened.
he's
but
on call.
not here yet.
Okay, do we have a question?
Could be. Okay.
Do I have any council discussion on this item or do I have a motion on this item?
Motion.
I have a motion by Council Member Calvo. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second by Councilwoman Casals Munoz. Can we call the roll?
Mr. Rodriguez? Mr. Tumidor?
Yes.
Mr. Zogby?
Yes.
Mr. Calvo?
Yes.
Ms. Casal Munoz?
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robes?
Yes.
Ms. Perez?
Yes.
Motion carries. The item is approved. Second reading and public hearing is scheduled for August 8th, 2023.
PZ 11
I'm
was
just-
postponed to August 8th, but let's record Councilman Zogby's
Yes.
on PZ, starting on PZ 1, Councilman Zogby.
Councilmember Zogby, your vote for item PZ 1, please.
Yes.
PZ 2,
Yes.
PZ 3,
Yes.
PZ 5,
Yes.
PZ 6,
Yes.
PZ 7,
Yes. Wow, we were moving fast. Yes.
PZ 8,
Or you were moving slow.
Yes.
PZ 9.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So as I was saying, PZ 12 is, I'm sorry, PZ 11 was postponed to August 8th. PZ 12, it was withdrawn by the applicant. So we're on final decisions, FT 1.
Proposed resolution approving the final decision of the Planning and Zoning Board, decision number 2023-08, granting a rear setback of 17 feet where 20 feet is a minimum required for the legalization of an existing addition. Property located at 4726 East 9th Lane, Hialeah, zoned R1, one family district, and providing for an effective date.
So this motion to approve with approval of conditions. Do you want to see the applicant or you just, you want to see the applicant or you just want a motion?
No, I want a motion. I know they're.
Okay. So I have a motion. I don't know. I was gonna talk about it. I don't know. Oh, ya, al fin llegamos usted, perdón. Ya los últimos para terminar la noche. So we have a motion by Councilwoman Casals Munoz. And we have a second by Councilmember Rodriguez.
Ustedes saben que tiene condiciones en la aprobación que estamos ahora. Estamos ahora. Okay.
Okay. Entienden todo lo que, la condición, lo que hay que hacer los cambios, ¿verdad? Está bien. Can we call the roll?
Mr. Tumidor,
Yes.
Mr. Zogby,
Yes.
Mr. Calvo,
Yes.
Ms. Casal Munoz,
Yes.
Ms. Garcia Robles.
Yes.
Ms. Perez, Mr. Rodriguez.
So I have a
Motion
motion,
carries. The item is approved.
so I have a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
I have a motion by Councilwoman Casals Munoz and a second by Councilwoman Garcia Robles.
Limited.
9:41. Next meeting is August 8th. Can I please sign, Melissa?